Chapter 1975. The Crimson League 1. What exactly is the spirit of chaos? Will it bring the ancient Yu clan more benefits? Or is it greater power? Yi Qingtang didn't have much understanding of the spirit of chaos. She had only heard a little about it from the ancient clans. With her current identity as the Holy Lord of Shadows, she couldn't possibly go around asking others about it. Miss Yi, you don't need to figure out what exactly the spirit of chaos is. So long as they have not been fully collected, they are just useless fragments, Ling Yan answered. Does the Eternal Dynasty own any spirit of chaos fragments? Yi Qingtang asked. Ling Yan shook his head. Only the various powerful ancient clans own these fragments. As for the fragment belonging to the Temple of Shadows, it was taken away from an ancient clan by the Holy Lord of Shadows. Even the sacred ground of reflection never owned it. Yi Qingtang gave it some thought. You want me to contact the Crimson League, but what can they do for me? I'm not familiar with the second domain, and have no idea about how to find the Crimson League. Moreover, if she were to leave the central mainland and head to the second domain, the ancient Yu clan could possibly hear of the news. Even if she was a fake, she still had the ability to keep the ancient Yu clan in line as long as she stayed in the central mainland. Of course you can't leave the central mainland, but you're forgetting that you don't have to physically go to the second domain to contact the Crimson League, Ling Yan said. Even though the Crimson League is a strong power based in the second domain, they have their people in the first domain, right in the central mainland. Miss Yi, you would just have to find the members of the Crimson League, who are currently in the central mainland, to pass them the news. Do you know where these members are at now? Yi Qingtang looked at Ling Yan with hope in her eyes. Ling Yan smiled when he saw her eyes sparkle with anticipation. Then he very decisively shook his head. Yi Qingtang, is it too late to beat him to death now? Ling Yan couldn't help but laugh when he saw Yi Qingtang's expression change. You know it. I know it. The corners of Yi Qingtang's mouths twitched a little. She should just beat him to death. To be precise, the Holy Lord of Shadows should know. Not only the Holy Lord of Shadows, the 2 holy sons of the Temple of Shadows, and the 8 tribe leaders know. You can ask them about how to find the Crimson League. Before Yi Qingtang could turn her thoughts into actions, Ling Yan gave an answer that calmed her down. Yi Qingtang had a rough direction of how things could go. As for how she could get the 8 tribe leaders or Ming Wang to let her know of how to find the members, she had to give it some further thought. Right when Yi Qingtang was thinking about what excuses she could make, she saw Ling Yan supporting his chin with one hand, his eyes crinkling into a smile as he looked at her. Just seeing his carefree expression made Yi Qingtang want to beat him up again. He had the audacity to smile even when his entire dynasty had been snatched over by the central dynasty? Was he magnanimous or what? What are you looking at? Yi Qingtang asked fiercely. I'm looking at you. Ling Yan smiled. Yi Qingtang felt that she couldn't continue with this fierce expression anymore. Miss Yi, what's the matter? It's been a long time, I missed you a lot. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath. Before her temperature got even higher, she wasted no time and grabbed Ling Yan's collar, chasing him out of the room. Chapter 1976. The Crimson League, 2. Little White Tiger only came out when it heard the sound of the door closing. Finished already? Yi Qingtang looked at Little White Tiger. Little White Tiger moved its whiskers. Ling Yan doesn't look too bad, but he's completely useless. It's only been this long. He's too weak. Yi Qingtang took a while to figure out what Little White Tiger meant. When she could finally comprehend what it just said, she couldn't help but want to sew its mouth shut. How could they still be in the mood to joke around? They couldn't control their mouths even at such times. Yi Qingtang truly was in no mood to think about anything else. The thought of the ancient Yu clan coming anytime stressed her out, feeling as though someone threatening her with a knife against her neck. As she thought about Ling Yan's suggestion, she recalled that the 8 tribe leaders did mention her return to the Crimson League before. Back then, Yi Qingtang was afraid that her identity might be exposed, so she didn't bother with it. But now, wasting no time, Yi Qingtang called the 8 tribe leaders to inquire about the Crimson League's situation in the central mainland. The Holy Lord of Shadows had left the Temple of Shadows for too long. Before the Holy Lord of Shadows left, The Temple of Shadows still belonged to the Crimson League. This only happened years after she disappeared. It had been more than tens of thousands of years ago, since the Holy Lord of Shadows broke off contact with the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang casually asked the 8 tribe leaders whether there were any changes regarding the Crimson League in the central mainland. Their answers made her heave a sigh of relief. Holy Lord, not too long after you left, the Crimson League removed us from the League. Following that, the ambassador's location in the central mainland also changed. Don't worry, we have been watching their moves all these years. The Goblin tribe's leader spoke, looking at Yi Qingtang with a hopeful expression. Before the removal from the Crimson League, the 8 tribe leaders felt suppressed and aggrieved. They knew for a fact that the Crimson League only agreed to let the Temple of Shadows join because of the Holy Lord of Shadows' capabilities. That explained why after the disappearance of the Holy Lord of Shadows, the Temple of Shadows no longer qualified for the Crimson League. The 8 tribe leaders were unhappy at the Holy Lord of Shadows for the longest time ever for leaving without any notice. But at the same time, they anticipated the Holy Lord of Shadows' return so that they could return to the Crimson League. The 8 tribe leaders were initially suspicious about it, but after they confirmed, they felt even more strongly about the return to the Crimson League. They didn't dare to tell Yi Qingtang what to do and could only hint at it indirectly. Now that Yi Qingtang finally mentioned the Crimson League, the 8 tribe leaders couldn't wait to let her know about every single piece of news they collected about the Crimson League over these years. Nobody even realized that Yi Qingtang didn't have much understanding of the Crimson League. After all, the Holy Lord had left for so long. There were massive changes in the Crimson League, and it wasn't unusual at all. Oh, tell me what you know. Yi Qingtang remained composed. The 8 tribe leaders told Yi Qingtang about everything they knew. One of the ambassadors from the Crimson League in the central mainland remained at the Temple of Shadows. After many years of waiting for the Holy Lord of Shadows to come back, the ambassador eventually informed the headquarters at the second domain to remove the Temple of Shadows from the Crimson League. Other than that one ambassador, they had a couple of capable ambassadors hidden among the central mainland. It was no surprise that the 8 tribe leaders had already found their locations. Chapter 1977, Crimson League 1, right in the Frost Abyss. The Frost Abyss was an extremely cold place. There were barely any people living there, and only alien clans could tolerate the sub-zero freezing temperatures there. Before alien clans appeared in the central mainland, there was barely anyone living there. Holy Lord, the Temple of Shadows was removed from the Crimson League because you forsook the Temple of Shadows. Since you've already come back, perhaps we could contact the Crimson League. The demon tribe leader tested the waters. The 8 tribe leaders certainly wished for the Temple of Shadows to return to the Crimson League, but it all depended on Yi Qingtang's wishes. Yi Qingtang paused for a moment to think. Prepare yourselves over the next few days. We'll be heading to the Frost Abyss. Once Yi Qingtang said that, the 8 tribe leaders' eyes lit up. The Holy Lord was finally going to get in touch with the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang didn't let anyone else know about her trip to the Frost Abyss. She instructed Ming Wang and Ming Wang to guard the Temple of Shadows, making sure to take note of the ancient Yu clan's every move. She took the demon tribe leader and the goblin tribe leader with her as they headed for the Frost Abyss. Originally, Yi Qingtang had planned to take Ling Yan with her in case anything happened, but when she was reminded of the dangers at the Frost Abyss and Ling Yan's capabilities, it would be best for him to remain at the Temple of Shadows. Moreover, if Ling Yan stayed behind at the Temple of Shadows, and the ancient Yu clan were to come, Ling Yan could immediately contact Yi Qingtang via the voice transmission stone. After making sure everything was taken care of, Yi Qingtang took the 2 tribe leaders with her and headed for the Frost Abyss. The Frost Abyss was quite a distance away from the Temple of Shadows. Yi Qingtang didn't have much time left and could only rush over with the fastest speed possible. The entire Zenith Heaven was consumed by the ancient Yu clan's horrifying aura. The only place that was not affected was the Frost Abyss, since it had a freezing climate and no humans around. It was a boundless icy zone, with white snow covering the place and cold wind blowing around. Looking across, It was an entire piece of white scenery. The snow and the skies were all white. It was hard to distinguish one from the other. Yi Qingtang couldn't help but be reminded of the mystic realm she entered previously. The mystic realm was a freezing place, exactly like this. However, as compared to the coldness of the frozen ice fields, the coldness here didn't seem to have any effects on Yi Qingtang at all. This time, Yi Qingtang brought little white tiger out with her. After some time, a huge ice mountain appeared on the boundless icy zone. There was a thick layer of ice on top of the mountain, and the icy layer reflected the sun rays and the snowy ground. One wouldn't be able to easily spot the existence of the ice mountain. "Holy Lord, the frost abyss is behind that ice mountain," the demon tribe leader said. Yi Qingtang nodded. Though she had once heard of the frost abyss, she had never been there before. If not, she wouldn't have needed the demon tribe leader and goblin tribe leader to be here with her. After passing the ice mountain, only then Yi Qingtang saw that behind the ice mountain, there was a huge crack on the snowy ground. The ground seemed to have cracked open, and cold air wouldn't stop coming out from the crack. When she looked over, it seemed to be a bottomless pit, and was pitch dark. This was the frost abyss, an extremely cold place that was cut off from the rest of the world. Without any further thought, Yi Qingtang flew down from the crack. The deeper she went, the lower the surrounding temperature. Chapter 1978, Crimson League 2. After flying for a couple of 100 meters, Yi Qingtang finally spotted a place where she could land. There were countless figures hidden inside the frost abyss. Yi Qingtang saw many alien races. The figures gathered together in the abyss that was cut off from the world. Although there were many alien races around, there was one particular race that Yi Qingtang hadn't seen before. It was a little white furry ball, around the size of a human's head. It was covered in white fur, and looked just like little snowballs. They jumped around with those claws hidden underneath its fur. They were simply adorable. Yi Qingtang couldn't help but smile when she saw the little white balls jump around. "Holy Lord, the ambassador of the Crimson League is over there." The goblin tribe leader pointed over at a cave in the frost abyss. There were all types of strange-looking weapons placed outside the cave, with a few little white balls standing outside the cave, communicating with the alien races with a special language. Yi Qingtang and the two tribe leaders walked over in their direction. The goblin tribe leader bowed, whispering in the ear of a little white ball that was slightly bigger in size. The little white ball hesitated for a bit before jumping into the cave. After a while, it jumped out and nodded at the goblin tribe leader. The goblin tribe leader then took Yi Qingtang with him into the cave. The cave was filled with ice lamps that were carved from crystals. They were glistening and very beautiful. One little white ball led the way in front, while Yi Qingtang followed behind, and her eyes scanned through the ice lamps. The ice lamps were unique. Some were carved with beautiful totems, and others were carved according to the respective shapes of the alien races. They were hung around the cave, lighting the dark cave up. They walked for quite some distance, and deep inside the cave, there was an ice door. They could somehow see some figures walking around behind that door, but it felt surreal. It was then that the little white balls stopped outside the door. Just as the goblin tribe leader was about to knock on the door, the ice door just opened up automatically. "Holy Lord, we only heard that the ambassador is here, but we haven't actually verified it ourselves," the goblin tribe leader whispered in Yi Qingtang's ear. Yi Qingtang looked over at the ajar door. A white figure appeared before them. When Yi Qingtang saw the figure, she was somewhat bewildered. It was a fox demon. It had a build that was similar to a grown man, walking on two back legs, a slender figure, and its entire body covered with white fur. There was a mark on its glabella. It seemed like 3 fire flames. The fox demon's eyes crinkled into a smile when it saw Yi Qingtang and the rest, the corners of its lips kicking up into a polite smile. "Anything I can help you with?" The fox demon sounded polite as it asked. It had a pleasant voice, and no one could bring themselves to dislike it. When the demon tribe leader saw the fox demon, he stepped forward and asked, "You're the ambassador of the Crimson League?" Chapter 1979, Crimson League 3, Crimson League? The fox demon lifted its eyes, replying, "What is the Crimson League? I'm selling ice lamps here. You're welcome to pick any that you fancy," But if you're here for something else, I won't be able to entertain you. The demon tribe leader was stunned. What was going on? We're from the Temple of Shadows. This time, the demon tribe leader wasn't done speaking. The fox demon was somehow impatient, wagging its tail. The Temple of Shadows? If I'm not wrong, the Temple of Shadows had nothing to do with the Crimson League long ago. Since you're not here for the ice lamps, you may leave. The demon tribe leader was stupefied. This damned fox was chasing them away, before he could even finish his words? The goblin tribe leader's expression also turned horrendous. However, he had to keep his cool and not do anything stupid since the fox was the ambassador of the Crimson League. The Temple of Shadows was removed by the Crimson League back then, because our Holy Lord disappeared. However, our Holy Lord is back now, the goblin tribe leader said. The fox demon looked at the tribe leaders before its eyes riveted on Yi Qingtang, who stood behind them. The Holy Lord of Shadows? Yes, this is our Holy Lord, the demon tribe leader said. The fox demon smiled. The Holy Lord of Shadows just disappeared for tens of thousands of years, without giving any notice or updates at all. The Temple of Shadows was a member of the Crimson League, and when the Holy Lord left without notice, wasn't that as good as disregarding the Crimson League? The Crimson League never interferes in the matters of the first domain. But you can't just come and go as you like. The Temple of Shadows only managed to join the Crimson League because of the Holy Lord of Shadows' persona capabilities. However, the Crimson League never received any news after the Holy Lord of Shadows disappeared. The Holy Lord of Shadows suddenly came back, but the Crimson League was not a tavern, so they couldn't just come and go as they liked. The fox demon's attitude was obviously different. Though it still was polite, it sounded insincere and not as welcoming. Likewise, the two tribe leaders were clearly displeased by its attitude. The fox demon didn't seem to be that powerful either. If only the two tribe leaders' powers weren't limited, they could defeat it with their usual powers. But now, the fox demon was being too much just because it was backed by the Crimson League. The two tribe leaders' faces turned somber. This fox demon would never dare to behave this way if it were to be in the past. They couldn't help but feel displeased, but still had to hold it in. Right before they could say anything, Yi Qingtang suddenly spoke. You must have misunderstood something. When Yi Qingtang spoke, the fox demon's gaze landed on her. Oh, Holy Lord, what do you mean? Yi Qingtang took a step forward. What do you think we came for today? The fox demon smiled. Aren't you here today to lead the Temple of Shadows back to the Crimson League? No. Yi Qingtang shook her head. The fox demon continued smiling. Now you've made me curious. If it isn't to rejoin the Crimson League, then why are you here? The demon tribe leader and goblin tribe leader were similarly confused by Yi Qingtang's words. Didn't they come so as to rejoin the Crimson League? Why would the Holy Lord suddenly say that? Was it because the Holy Lord was infuriated by that damned fox? I came today to convey some words to the Crimson League. Chapter 1980, Crimson League 4. What is it? The fox demon asked. The ancient Yu clan is eyeing the Crimson League, Yi Qingtang said. The fox demon paused for a moment before it laughed. Holy Lord, you don't make a lot of sense. The Crimson League is based in the second domain, while we're at the central mainland now. The fox demon looked at Yi Qingtang and continued. I'm not completely clueless about the outside world, even though I'm at the Frost Abyss. From what I know, the ancient Yu clan has been quite radical recently in the central mainland. Their powers have also significantly increased, but this is all due to rivalry in the central mainland. I know that the ancient Yu clan and Temple of Shadows had a conflict previously. You're underestimating the Crimson League's information network if you think the Crimson League will join in just because you made up some news. The fox demon never took her words to heart. No matter ancient Yu clan's powers, they were based in the first domain. If they were to come head-to-head with the second domain's powers, it would be akin to seeking their own death. After all, the two domains were worlds apart. I'm here to say what I want to say, and it's up to you whether you want to believe it or not. Yi Qingtang remained composed. Though the Temple of Shadows has already been removed from the Crimson League, we were still once allies, and so I came to let you know about it. Oh, Holy Lord, you're quite nice then, aren't you? The fox demon let out a chuckle. With that, Yi Qingtang glanced at the fox demon. I'm sure you have your ways of learning about the outside world. But how much can you know? The ancient Yu clan can increase their powers by tenfold just in a year. How far do you think they can go over time? Yi Qingtang's words made the fox demon's expression change. Before the fox demon could even say anything, Yi Qingtang spoke first. Anyway, that is all I can say. Goodbye. Yi Qingtang didn't give the fox demon any chance to speak, and just turned around and left. She was straight to the point, and the two tribe leaders were shocked. They quickly rushed out after her. Holy Lord, is the ancient Yu clan really that ambitious? They're eyeing the second domain's powers? The demon tribe leader asked Yi Qingtang right after they stepped out of the cave. The two tribe leaders were shocked by Yi Qingtang's actions earlier. Yi Qingtang hadn't mentioned a single word about returning to the Crimson League, and absolutely nothing about repairing a relationship with the Crimson League. This made her words even more credible. What do you think? Yi Qingtang replied with composure. With the ancient Yu clan's current powers, they are considered the best in the first domain. However, they are still collecting the spirit of chaos fragments, which shows that they are not after the first domain. Moreover, the ancient Yu clan despised alien races all along. The Crimson League is the league for alien races in the second domain, and would naturally be their first target. Yi Qingtang sounded confident and absolutely convincing, leaving the two tribe leaders bewildered. The Holy Lord was formidable to discover the ancient Yu clan's aims. The Crimson League had already removed them, but the Holy Lord was nice enough to let them know of the threats. That damned fox is very arrogant. It might not have just disregarded the Holy Lord's words. The Crimson League might not be able to appreciate the Holy Lord's good intentions, the demon tribe leader scoffed. Chapter 1981, Crimson League 5. After all, I was once part of the Crimson League. Now I've done my part in sending them a reminder, so I have nothing else to do with it. Yi Qingtang discreetly observed the little white balls that passed by them. The little white balls headed in the direction of the fox demon's cave, after hearing Yi Qingtang's words. Meanwhile, the two tribe leaders hadn't noticed a thing at all. When Yi Qingtang saw the little white balls head for the cave, a small smile quirked in the corner of her mouth. The snow spirit. It was a resentful spirit that was unique to the demon clan. It was barely seen in the first domain, but widely known in the second domain. Yi Qingtang had never seen the snow spirit in her previous lifetime. She only heard a little about it. All she knew was that such resentful spirits were manipulated by the shaman of the demon clan. Yi Qingtang didn't think too much about it, but when she saw the mark on the fox demon's glabella, she realized that the fox demon was a shaman of the demon clan. The fox demon had mentioned it previously. It was clear about everything that happened in the central mainland. It must have gotten the news by manipulating the snow spirits. That meant the snow spirits were able to turn into different animals and hide around the mainland under the priest's manipulation. When Yi Qingtang walked out of the cave earlier, she already noticed that the snow spirits were casually hanging around her surroundings. In fact, she had meant to let those snow spirits overhear her conversation with the two tribe leaders. The snow spirits must have already reported back to the fox demon. Now that Yi Qingtang had already achieved her goals, she no longer needed to remain in the frost abyss. She took the tribe leaders with her and left, making sure that she was merely reminding them. Unsurprisingly, right after Yi Qingtang left the frost abyss got the news from the snow spirits. The fox demon's eyes narrowed. It didn't believe Yi Qingtang earlier on, but now it went into deep thought. After a moment of silence, the fox demon walked in front of a huge ice mirror. Lifting its hand, beams of light shot out from the ice mirror. Suddenly, a figure appeared behind the ice mirror. The fox demon bowed respectfully when it saw the figure. "Greetings, priest. What's the matter?" A deep voice came from inside the ice mirror. The fox demon briefly explained the purpose behind the Holy Lord of Shadow's visit, and everything about the ancient Yu clan. The figure in the ice mirror paused for a moment before speaking. "What is your understanding of the ancient Yu clan?" Even though the Crimson League had a few ambassadors around the different mainlands in the first domain, they didn't really bother with the first domain. because of the backward martial culture. The sudden increase in powers of the ancient Yu clan is indeed abnormal. The Holy Lord of Shadows also mentioned the Spirit of Chaos fragment. The ancient Yu clan seems to be collecting it, the Fox Demon reported. The figure in the ice mirror took a moment before replying. I'll send someone over to the central mainland to investigate. Noted. If the Holy Lord of Shadows was speaking the truth, they had to do something to get rid of the ancient Yu clan's influence. However, if the Holy Lord of Shadows was trying to make use of the Crimson League to get rid of an enemy, the Temple of Shadows would become one of the Crimson League's main targets. Chapter 1982, Double-Edged Sword 1. Yi Qingtang went to look for Ling Yan right after returning from the Frost Abyss. The two tribe leaders noticed her actions and exchanged complicated glances. Even though Holy Lord had finally been enlightened, but surely it's not the time now, right? Holy Lord, it isn't time for you to indulge in such temptation when the ancient Yu clan is eyeing everything. The two tribe leaders were feeling complicated inside, but none of them dared to say anything about it. Other than that doltish teenager, Ling Yan was the only normal person who entered the Holy Lord's room. It was normal for them to be curious. Ling Yan, I went to look for Crimson League's ambassador in the central mainland, just as you said. Do you really think it'll work? Yi Qingtang had acted according to Ling Yan's plans and revealed the news to the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang understood the rationale behind his plans, but she was afraid that the Crimson League would not be easily fooled, and it would not be easy to sow discord between them. Miss Yi, to know whether it'll work, you'll just have to wait and see. Ling Yan smiled. Don't just leave me hanging here. What exactly are you planning to do? Yi Qingtang could somehow sense that Ling Yan was going to do something, but she wasn't certain yet. It's not important whether the Crimson League believes you or not. We just need to sow doubt in them, and they will send someone to investigate it. Moreover, I believe that the Crimson League is aware that the ancient Yu clan's powers have been increasing. They are not bothered by it, because they think that it has nothing to do with them, and will not threaten their interests, since the ancient Yu clan is based in the first domain. It won't be easy if you want the Crimson League to be completely convinced that the ancient Yu clan is eyeing them. Yi Qingtang was aware that Ling Yan's plan was a good one, but it wouldn't be easy to make use of the Crimson League. Miss Yi, don't worry. The guests from the Crimson League will come to the Temple of Shadows in just a few days. That will be the beginning of our plan. Ling Yan smiled. If anything, Yi Qingtang was left completely confused by Ling Yan's ambiguous answer. Smart people would plan a few steps, but Ling Yan would plan even more steps ahead. Yi Qingtang could somehow guess what he was going to do next, but she couldn't catch anything further ahead. How do you know that the Crimson League is going to send someone to the Temple of Shadows? Yi Qingtang asked. The Crimson League would definitely investigate it since you personally told them about it. If you spoke the truth, they would surely do something about it. Conversely, if it's untrue, the Crimson League would deal with the Temple of Shadows, Ling Yan explained. Yi Qingtang, you're saying that if there's no way to convince the Crimson League that the ancient Yu clan is planning something against them, the Crimson League is going to ruin the Temple of Shadows instead? Yi Qingtang's eyes narrowed as she asked Ling Yan. Ling Yan nodded. Strong alliances would never allow such accusations. They had to protect their image and reputation. They would never allow anyone to cross the lines. The corners of Yi Qingtang's lips twitched. She really wanted to slap Ling Yan when she saw him grinning. They were supposed to kill with a borrowed knife, but this knife had become a double-edged sword instead. If they were exposed, the Temple of Shadows would suffer even more dire consequences than the ancient Yu clan for sure. Chapter 1983, Double-Edged Sword 2. Miss Yi, rest assured. Even if the Crimson League sends someone here, it's possibly because they want to take the Temple of Shadows back in again. Ling Yan added when he saw Yi Qingtang's hands ball up into fists. That's right. The Crimson League might allow the Temple of Shadows to rejoin after confirming the news. However, that was under the premise that they found out the ancient Yu clan was really going to threaten the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang felt a headache coming on. She wanted to just push him onto the ground and beat him up, but she still had some use for his brain. As quickly as the thought entered her mind, Yi Qingtang left Ling Yan's room in case she really lost control over herself and beat him up. Little Azure Dragon only came out after Yi Qingtang left. "You'll eventually be beaten up to death one day," said Little Azure Dragon. Ling Yan raised his brows, smiling without saying a word. Yi Qingtang wasn't certain about when the Crimson League would act. Before anything happened, she secretly contacted Yu Qiong. Yu Qiong had acted according to Yi Qingtang's plans and returned to the ancient Yu clan, recovering his status as an elder. As for how he managed to do that, he hadn't offered any explanation to Yi Qingtang yet. The great elder of the ancient Yu clan still was capable. Yu Qiong brought some news over from the ancient Yu clan. Since then, the ancient Yu clan had gone even more overboard. They went after the major forces in the central mainland, and the forces were either massacred. If not, they would have to back down to the ancient Yu clan. The ancient Yu clan's sphere of influence increased consequently. They were about to become an enormous influence, the first in the central mainland. Yi Qingtang secretly watched the ancient Yu clan's every move, and on the other hand, she instructed Xuefu to send Jiang Xiaobai back to the Jiang family so that they could take care of him. As time passed, the central mainland's demographics also completely transformed. Even more ancient clans suffered, and the only few existing ones who hadn't sought help from the Temple of Shadows had hidden somewhere unknown. Almost the entire central mainland was under the ancient Yu clan's control. The ancient clans within the Temple of Shadows were worried. They weren't foolish. They could somehow sense that the Temple of Shadows and themselves would eventually be the final target of the ancient Yu clan. However, Yi Qingtang didn't seem to have planned anything yet. They couldn't help but feel worried. 1 month passed, and the knife that was balancing on top of everyone's head was going to fall at any time. Ming Di had already suggested a couple of times to leave the temple and combat the ancient Yu clan, but his suggestion had been rejected by Yi Qingtang over and over again. Finally, Yu Qiong had some news. The ancient Yu clan had sent someone to watch the Temple of Shadows' every move. Yi Qingtang certainly couldn't allow Ming Di to just do anything he wanted. Holy Lord, this is the list of ancient clans that have been massacred by the ancient Yu clan. Please look through it. Lady Ghost handed the file to Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang looked through it and couldn't help but frown. The ancient Yu clan was advancing at an even more manic rate. Just as Yi Qingtang was about to say something, a piercing sound rang in her ears. What just happened? Yi Qingtang asked with furrowed brows. Holy Lord, please hold on. Oh, go and have a look. Lady Ghost immediately went out. Could it be that the ancient Yu clan was here for the Temple of Shadows already? Lady Ghost quickly walked towards the hall to check. The piercing sound had alarmed everyone in the Temple of Shadows. Even those from the ancient clans also came out. They were all shocked as they looked at the sky. Chapter 1984, Double-Edged Sword 3. A huge dragon-like beast was circling in the sky. 3 cicada wings sprouted from its back, and its head was different from a dragon's. It was more like a 3-headed snake. The beast hovered above the Temple of Shadows like an ominous rain cloud, casting a huge shadow over the temple. What is that? Asked a young man from the ancient clan. He had never seen such a creature before, but chills ran down his spine as he looked at it. Is that a wind snake? An ancient clan leader said as he frowned. But before he could continue, he was hit with a sense of foreboding. A wind snake shouldn't be this big, and they only have a pair of wings. That's a mutant wind snake. A loud voice suddenly rang out. Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice. It came from Northstar Demon Lord, who had walked out with the Jiang family. They were all looking at the huge creature in the sky. Mutant wind snake? The ancient clan people were all confused. They had no idea that a wind snake could be a mutant. Northstar Demon Lord continued. I've only heard about it in legends as well. My mother mentioned it before, that the wind snake is already a rare creature within the demon race, and only 1 out of 100,000 is mutant. Everyone froze when they heard this. 1 out of 100,000? What kind of joke was this? There were only about 1,000 wind snakes in the central mainland. It shouldn't exist in the first domain. North Star Demon Lord's expression was dark. As a demon, he knew better than everyone else how terrifying Wind Snake was, let alone a mutant one. Do you think it's from the ancient Yu clan? The people panicked as they thought about that. They all subconsciously wanted to seek shelter from the undead clan, but all realized that Lady Ghost, and the rest of them, had a complicated expression on their faces as they looked at the mutant Wind Snake. The Crimson League? Xuefu asked Lady Ghost as he looked at the mutant Wind Snake in the sky. Lady Ghost looked at the mutant Wind Snake and nodded. Their voices weren't particularly loud, but it was enough for the ancient clan people beside them to hear. They all froze in surprise as they heard the words Crimson League. Crimson League? What kind of joke was this? What was the strongest alliance from the second domain doing in the central mainland? They were reminded of how the powerful people of the second domain had invaded them long ago. Even though they were nothing special in the second domain, they had almost destroyed the entire central mainland. This beast from the Crimson League was enough to crush all the powerful people sent from the second domain. The same Crimson League that had unimaginable power in the central mainland. Just as the people were discussing the Crimson League in surprise, the huge beast descended from the sky. The three wings were only flapping gently, yet stones flew in all directions on the ground. Huge stones were blown into the air and reduced to smithereens by the mutant Wind Snake's powerful wings. The powerful people of the ancient clan had to use their spirit energy to stabilize themselves, so as not to be blown into the air. As the mutant Wind Snake descended, three figures on its back came into view. It was three strange-looking people from an alien clan. Their leader was in a black coat, his face not visible despite the bright sun. The only thing they could make out was a stream of black smoke emanating from his sleeves. Chapter 1985. The Arrival of the Crimson League. 1. Standing behind the mysterious person in the black clothes was a man and a woman. The man's complexion was as fair as porcelain, and was glowing slightly. He was smiling gently calmly, and looked just like a porcelain doll. Similarly, the woman was mesmerizing as well. She was extremely slender, her waist as small as a clenched fist, and she was in a green tight-waisted dress which accentuated her slim waist even more. Her face was ethereal. There were two peonies at the edge of her beautiful eyes, which seemed to bloom every time she looked up. They were enough to bewitch anyone looking at her. They were definitely not human. They were from an alien race. Xuefu frowned slightly as he saw the lady from the alien race. Why is it her? You know her? Lady Ghost had entered the Temple of Shadows later than Xuefu, and even though it had still been associated with the Crimson League, they already had very little interaction. Xuefu's expression was strange, but he remained silent. Black mist spread out from their feet as the mutant Wind Snake landed. The feet of the three of them did not touch the ground, as the black mist underneath them continued to spread. The ancient clan people standing around them suddenly felt a chill that penetrated deep into their bones. The chill was akin to the coldness of death, which seemed to come from within their hearts. But in an instant, the youngest members of the ancient clan, who were within the mist, suddenly turned pale. Their lips purpled as they knelt to the ground in pain, as though someone was strangling them. How is Mo Yao taking care of the Temple of Shadows? How can there be humans here? The woman looked at the collapsed young people in disgust, as though she was looking at a pile of repulsive ants. Mo Yao was the Holy Lord of Shadows' name. In the entire Temple of Shadows, other than an angry Mingdi, no one dared to call the Holy Lord of Shadows by her name. What an eyesore! The alien race woman lifted her eyes. As she lifted her slim, long fingers slowly, the nails at the end as sharp as blades. With a flick of her fingers, a wisp of glittery mist flew out. Xuefu felt an extreme source of foreboding as he saw that, but it was too late for him to cry out. The glittery mist spread all around them. Before the people of the ancient clans could even understand what was going on, the mist had dispersed into the air and adhered to their bodies. In the next second, a vine burst forth from where the mist had stuck to the people and quickly tore one of the men apart. The strong stench of blood quickly filled the air. Those who had been touched by the mist all shrieked, as though they had seen a ghost. They could all feel something lurking within them, waiting to implode. Guardian Xuefu, Save us. Xue Fu's expression was extremely dark as he heard the tinkling laugh of the alien race lady as she looked at the blood in front of her. He frowned as he suppressed the foreboding feeling in his heart and walked forward. Greetings, our three ambassadors. Chapter 1986. The arrival of the Crimson League, 2. Busy admiring her craft. Annoyance flashed across the face of the alien race lady as she was interrupted. She merely glanced at Xue Fu and uttered 2 words. Get lost. Still, Xue Fu steeled himself and refused to leave. He didn't care whether the ancient clan people lived or died, but now that they were under the care of the Holy Lord of Shadows, it would cast doubt on the Holy Lord of Shadows' reputation if they died. Lady Baiji, please have some mercy on us. You recognize me? The alien race lady said as she raised her brows. Xue Fu said, I had the honor of meeting your grace many years ago in the Crimson League. To think that you dare interrupt my joy even when you know who I am? I see that Mo Yao hasn't been taking good care of this place, seeing as she is mixing with humans now. I'll help her out then. Murderous intent flashed across Baiji's eyes. Xue Fu's expression turned ugly. At that moment, the person in the black robes spoke up. Let's get down to business. The voice that came out of the figure was otherworldly, as though it was coming from a dream. Just hearing it was enough to make their hair stand on end. Baiji narrowed her eyes but did not rebut this. With a wave of her hand, she dispersed the mist, sparing the lives of the ancient clan people. Xue Fu sighed in relief and looked at the person in black robes. I was not informed that ambassadors from the Crimson League would be arriving. Let us move into the main hall, and I will inform the Holy Lord. The person in black robes nodded slightly, and without another word, moved the 3 of them into the Temple of Shadows with the black mist. Xue Fu instructed Lady Ghost to take care of the ancient clan people, and quickly headed over to inform Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang was still waiting for Lady Ghost to report back to her, and was surprised to see Xue Fu instead. Holy Lord, ambassadors from the Crimson League are waiting for you in the main hall. Xue Fu informed her with a difficult expression. Yi Qingtang was speechless. They were already here? Although she was extremely surprised, she maintained a calm expression on the surface. Who's here? There are 3 of them. I don't recognize 2, but one of them is Lady Baiji. Xue Fu couldn't help but look at Yi Qingtang's expression as he mentioned Baiji's name. But what expression could she even show? She didn't know any of them. Her face remained expressionless. Xue Fu gritted his teeth and said, The ancient clan people walked out to take a look when the 3 of them arrived, but this angered Lady Baiji, and she killed a few of them. Yi Qingtang was truly in despair now. This really was a double-edged sword. They had slaughtered people under her watch, even before making a move against the ancient Yu clan? Seeing Yi Qingtang frown, Xue Fu quickly spoke. Please do not be angry, Holy Lord. Lady Baiji and the Holy Lord have not seen eye to eye for a long time, but we do not know her intention for coming forward this time. Holy Lord, please take this into consideration. So the Holy Lord of Shadows and Lady Baiji had discord between them? Yi Qingtang was stunned. She had no idea where this Baiji was from but was surprised that she could go up against the Holy Lord of Shadows. Of course, the Crimson League would send some powerful people over. After taking some time to think things through, Yi Qingtang started walking towards the main hall. The 8 tribe leaders and other important people of the Temple of Shadows were all gathered in the main hall by the time she arrived. Even Minggu, who rarely showed himself, was in the main hall, his eyes submissive as he looked at Baiji. Baiji smiled as she saw Ming Wang and Minggu and said jokingly, The 2 of you haven't been killed by Mo Yao yet? Gritting his teeth, Minggu was held back as Ming Wang grabbed his arm. Chapter 1987. The arrival of the Crimson League 3. Baiji wasn't someone they could take on. After a second, Yi Qingtang walked into the main hall with her golden mask on. As soon as she was seated, she spotted the 3 from the alien race on the black mist. Yi Qingtang silently touched the cold mist. What frightening power! Even though the 3 ambassadors had not shown their true powers yet, Yi Qingtang's perception of other people's power had become more acute after entering the Holy Venerate realm. In her eyes, The three of them were surrounded by a horrendous level of power, with the person in black robes being the most terrifying one. This was expected since they were from the Crimson League, and their power was vastly different from even the powerful people of the central mainland. Yi Qingtang had no doubt that any of these three could easily wipe out the ancient clan people outside, and without sparing much effort at all. What she was seeing of their powers was merely the tip of the iceberg. The difference between the first domain and the second domain was truly immense. She had experienced this difference before in her previous life, and nothing had changed this time around. Ling Yan, this double-edged sword of yours isn't going to be easy to use. Yi Qingtang was acutely aware of the hostile glance the lady was casting at her the moment she sat down. She made no effort to conceal her hostility. This was probably the Baiji Xuefu was talking about. Inside, Yi Qingtang was despairing. Who knew that there would be an old enemy among the ambassadors that the Crimson League had sent over? Wasn't she going to die then? While her heart was in turmoil, she maintained her calm composure and spoke. What business do the three of you have with me? Mo Yao, why are you asking when you already know the answer? Baiji asked as she raised her chin slightly. What am I supposed to know? Yi Qingtang shot back calmly in a steady tone. Weren't you the one who informed the Snow Fox that the ancient Yu clan had an agenda against the Crimson League? Baiji asked coldly. That's right, I did say that. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly and continued. So you are here for this? Of course. Yi Qingtang went on. I've already said all that I want to say. I'm sure that with the Crimson League's might, you'll be able to figure out whether I'm telling the truth. Is there any need to ask again? Baiji was about to speak when the person in black robes spoke up. We will investigate the ancient Yu clan ourselves. We came here today to inform you of something else. What is it? Just hearing the person in black robes speak was enough to send chills down Yi Qingtang's spine. Long ago, you promised the League that you would find the Netherworld Ring and present it to the Elder. You've already been dragging this matter for tens of thousands of years, and it's time for you to fulfill your promise. It was at this moment that Yi Qingtang saw what was under the person's robes. His head was surrounded by black mist, and she could not make out his features at all. Her hands turned cold. She was taken aback as she heard what he said. Netherworld Ring? What in the world was that? The Holy Lord of Shadows owed the Crimson League something? She was doomed. Why was there something else she had to settle, when she hadn't even sorted out the ancient Yu clan yet? Chapter 1988, Netherworld Ring 1. Was this even real or were they just testing her? Yi Qingtang didn't rush to reply. To the people there, it looked as though she was responding with silence. 7 days. You have 7 days to deliver the Netherworld Ring to the Frost Abyss. If you break your promise, the Crimson League is not going to let it go that easily. Seeing that Yi Qingtang was choosing to remain silent, the person in black robes spoke up again. Without saying anything else, he left with Baiji and the other alien race man on the black mist. Even after they left, Yi Qingtang couldn't relax. She had thought it strange that the Crimson League was coming to the Temple of Shadows to investigate the ancient Yu clan. So it turned out, they had come for this. But she had no idea how true the matter with the Netherworld Ring was, and whether this was the reason the Crimson League was so unhappy with the Temple of Shadows. The people from the Crimson League are as flamboyant as usual, the demon tribe leader said once the three of them had left. The Crimson League has great jurisdiction after all. Weren't they the same when our Holy Lord brought us to the first domain all those years ago? If not for the fact that the Holy Lord had promised to find the Netherworld Ring for them, they would have caused so much more trouble for us, Xuefu said with a sigh. Hearing their conversation confirmed the truth of this matter for Yi Qingtang. But where was she supposed to find the Netherworld Ring? She was reminded of the Dharma treasures the Holy Lord of Shadows had left behind, and decided to look through them carefully once she was back. The Holy Lord of Shadows had indeed promised to deliver the Netherworld Ring to the Crimson League, but the Crimson League had been preoccupied with some matters in the second domain, and had not asked the Holy Lord of Shadows for it yet. And once they had finally found their footing, the Holy Lord had vanished. So the first reason that the Crimson League had removed the Temple of Shadows from the League was the vanishing of their strongest fighter, the Holy Lord of Shadows. and the second was the fact that the Holy Lord had not delivered the Netherworld Ring as she had promised. Yi Qingtang was about to retire to her room to look for the Netherworld Ring when the ancient clan people ran towards her with bitter expressions on their faces. She saw that many of them were injured. The Crimson League ambassadors had not pulled any punches. Holy Lord, the Crimson League! One of the ancient clan elders looked at her with a difficult expression. They had thought that the Crimson League was reinforcement that Yi Qingtang had called it, but had soon realized that it wasn't the case. After all, the people from the central mainland were nothing to the Crimson League. If not for Xue Fu, they would have all died in the hands of the Crimson League. I'll deal with the Crimson League. All of you just take care of your wounds, Yi Qingtang said. The ancient clan all sighed with relief as they saw her come forward. They had been afraid that she would kick them out because of the Crimson League. Their lives would be horrible if she chose to do that. Under the grateful gazes of the ancient clan, Yi Qingtang quickly went back to her room and asked Xue Fu to call Ling Yan immediately. Xue Fu was lost for words. Holy Lord, your underlings have no idea how to deal with your sudden thirst for men. To think that the Holy Lord was calling for a man so quickly after seeing the Crimson League. Had she been reminded of the past after seeing Baiji? But he didn't say anything and left to find Ling Yan. Xue Fu paused for a moment at Ling Yan's door before saying, Young Master Ling. Chapter 1989, Netherworld Ring 2. Is there anything I can help you with, Guardian? Ling Yan asked. With a difficult expression on his face, Xue Fu frowned and hesitated for a moment before saying, Now that the central mainland is in danger, we can only count on the Holy Lord to protect us. If young Master Lin can make the Holy Lord happy, you have our thanks. Seeing that Yi Qingtang had been with Ling Yan a lot lately, he mistakenly thought that she needed him to vent her frustrations. Ling Yan looked at Xue Fu's sincere expression, and the edges of his lips curled into a smile. I will be sure to service the Holy Lord as well as I can. Service? Xue Fu nodded silently. Ling Yan's status as a male pet was becoming more and more real. Back in her room, Yi Qingtang had taken out all of the Holy Lord of Shadow's Dharma artifacts and was inspecting them one at a time. She found 7 to 8 rings, but had no idea which was the Netherworld Ring, if any at all. Ling Yan pushed open the door. Before he could even step in, Yi Qingtang had rushed up to the door and pulled him in. Shutting the door with a loud thud, Xue Fu, who was standing outside, was at a loss for words. Holy Lord, make sure to take care of your body. You came at the right time. The people from the Crimson League just came and left. She quickly summarized the events for him. So you're looking for the Netherworld Ring? Ling Yan looked at the rings laid out in front of her. She nodded. Do you know what the Netherworld Ring looks like? She felt that there was nothing in this world that Ling Yan didn't know. He spoke up. Yes. Yi Qingtang's heart leaped with joy. That's great. Help me take a look then, and tell me which is the Netherworld Ring. Ling Yan glanced at the rings. Congratulations, Miss Yi. Yes. The rings here are all extremely powerful. I know. I'm asking you which is the Netherworld Ring. It's not here. What? Yi Qingtang was startled. Ling Yan repeated. The Netherworld Ring isn't here. Yi Qingtang was speechless before she withered instantly in despair. You're telling me that the Netherworld Ring isn't here? Ling Yan nodded and said, The aura of death around the Netherworld Ring is strong, and just a light touch will make you feel extremely cold. With that, he placed the rings into her hands one by one to let her feel them. None of them felt like the Netherworld Ring. So it's not here. Yi Qingtang's head was starting to hurt. The Holy Lord of Shadows might have taken the Netherworld Ring, Ling Yan suggested. Resting her chin on one hand, Yi Qingtang could only sigh. She had wanted to stir up some trouble between the Crimson League and the ancient Yu clan, so that they would deal with the threat, but now that the Netherworld Ring was gone, the Crimson League was unlikely to help them. Seeing her disappointed expression, Ling Yan was about to speak up when her eyes suddenly lit up, and she quickly looked to him. He laughed as she fixed him with her bright eyes. Miss Yi, I won't be able to restrain myself if you look at me like this. Yi Qingtang had no time to deal with his antics at the moment and quickly grabbed his hand, asking, So you know what the Netherworld ring looks like? Looking at his hand in hers, Ling Yin nodded silently. Draw it. Draw it right now. Yi Qingtang dragged him over to a table and pushed him down, handing him a piece of paper. Chapter 1990, Netherworld Ring 3. You want to create your own Netherworld ring? Ling Yin said with realization. Yi Qingtang nodded. I was wondering how I could stir things up between the ancient Yu clan and the Crimson League before. But now I have an idea, she said with a smile. You're planning to let word out that the ancient Yu clan has stolen the Netherworld ring? Yi Qingtang wasn't surprised at all that Ling Yin had managed to guess her plan. He was extraordinarily intelligent and could easily think of the same plan that she had. That's right. The real Netherworld ring is in the hands of the Holy Lord of Shadows. Since the Crimson League is demanding it of me, I'll make them a fake one. But it can never land in their hands. So I'll let out word about the location of the Netherworld ring and the fact that I'm going to move it elsewhere. And you're going to cause some damage to the ancient Yu clan with Ming Di before this. Ling Yin took the words right out of her mouth. That's right. I'll make sure to make it unbearable for them, but won't push them to their limits. Yi Qingtang loved speaking with Ling Yin. He understood everything she was thinking of. It was undeniably relaxing to speak with one she didn't have to explain anything to. Once the dissatisfaction the ancient Yu clan has towards the Temple of Shadows increases, they will want to make some trouble for us without attacking directly. Miss Yi, you're going to be killing two birds with one stone. It's a great plan. Ling Yin looked at her with admiration. She didn't notice his smile at all, and only asked him to quickly draw the ring out. It's not hard for me to draw it out, but there are some things that we can't let people from the outside find out. The undead clan within the Temple of Shadows is one of them, and we should hide them. Why not let me help you make a fake Netherworld ring? Ling Yin said. You can do that. Yi Qingtang raised her eyebrows slightly. I know a little. Yi Qingtang had faith in him, since he had suggested this himself. To avoid any more unnecessary ramifications, she let Ling Yin create the fake Netherworld ring in her own room. Because of this, he went in and out of her room more often, and was pale and sweating profusely every time he left. All this was seen by Xue Fu and the rest, but they interpreted it far differently. Even the 8 tribe leaders, who didn't particularly like Ling Yin, patted his shoulder in sympathy after seeing him. As Ling Yin was busy creating the fake Netherworld ring, Yi Qingtang brought Ming Di around the central mainland to attack the ancient Yu clan. She didn't dare attack them when they were in groups, but when they had first started slaughtering the different ancient clans, they had sent out many young people to do the job. So she attacked them together with Ming Di and wiped them out without much effort at all. As she always left before they could get word out and send for reinforcements, the ancient Yu clan's army always missed them. This angered the ancient Yu clan so much that they were this close to declaring war on the Temple of Shadows. Elder, the Temple of Shadows is too much. We let them go that time, but this is the 5th time they are attacking us. The Holy Lord of Shadows and Ming Di have been foiling our plans. Elder, are we just going to sit still and endure it? One of the wardens fumed as he heard the report. Chapter 1991, Theft 1. From his high position, Elder Mo's expression was dark. Apart from the matter with the Jiang family, the Temple of Shadows had never interfered with the actions of the ancient Yu clan, which was one of the reasons the ancient Yu clan could leave them alone in the meantime. But the Temple of Shadows had been disturbing this peace recently. Other than the ancient clans that have sought protection from the Temple of Shadows, how many more are there in the central mainland that we have yet to destroy? Elder Mo asked one of the wardens. About 7 to 8. And how much more time do we need to find all of them? He asked. About half a month. They are hiding well, and we currently only have a few leads on them. The warden steeled himself and answered. Elder Mo kept quiet for a moment before saying, We have to deal with the Temple of Shadows sooner or later. But we must wipe out the other ancient clans first to make sure that they don't seize the opportunity to escape when we are in battle. Once we have obtained the spirit of chaos fragments from those ancient clans, the Temple of Shadows will be our next target. Reluctance showed on the wardens' faces, but they dared not oppose Elder Mo. The master had tasked the great elders with finding the spirit of chaos fragments, which meant that they had absolute authority in that regard. But it was at this moment that one of the elders standing silently in a corner spoke up. It's admirable that Elder Mo is taking into consideration the grand scheme of things. But even if we don't declare war on the Temple of Shadows, we can't let them run rampant as well. Elder Mo turned to the elder speaking. The elder walked forward and continued. If the Temple of Shadows can meddle with our affairs, shouldn't we do the same for them? I heard that the Temple of Shadows will be transferring a precious Dharma artifact tomorrow. Why not use this opportunity to retaliate? A Dharma artifact? Which artifact? Elder Mo asked. The Netherworld Ring. Elder Mo was stunned for a second. The Netherworld Ring? The Netherworld Ring was a holy artifact, and there were few artifacts in the central mainland which could match it. According to legend, the Netherworld Ring had been left behind by a heavenly demon. Many people had expended great effort to find the ring, but it had ultimately landed in the hands of the Temple of Shadows. Is this information accurate? Elder Mo asked. I'm not sure, but I've confirmed that the Temple of Shadows has been preparing manpower and horses, which means that they are preparing to transport something important. I can bring some men over to take a look. If it's not the Netherworld Ring, we will find another way to slow them down. But if it is indeed the Netherworld Ring, we can strike an even greater blow to them to make sure that we are not at a disadvantage, the elder said. Elder Mo contemplated this for a moment. Now that the influence of the Temple of Shadows was fading, all they had to do to create trouble was to cross the boundary to the Temple of Shadows and start a battle there. Indeed, this was a great opportunity. All right, Elder Mo agreed. Regardless of whether it was real or not, they would be able to strike a blow. Yu Qiong, if it really is the Netherworld Ring, make sure to bring enough people to take it from them. After that, I will suggest to the master to let you enter the mixed realm, so that you can become even more powerful, said Elder Mo. Chapter 1992. Theft 2. It was Yu Qiong who had spoken up before, and his eyes flashed with greed as he heard Elder Mo's words. I will make sure to do my best and not let Elder Mo down. With a nod of satisfaction, Elder Mo gestured for him to rejoin the other two wardens to carry out the task. Yu Qiong began discussing with the two wardens after leaving the main hall, but the two wardens were extremely arrogant and didn't take Yu Qiong's words to heart at all, merely telling him to not worry, and that they would take care of everything. Rejected and treated as an outsider, Yu Qiong could feel their prejudice against him. He retreated humbly with a glint in his eyes. As per Yi Qingtang's plans, he had returned to the ancient Yu clan, but his status was no longer as great as before. The ancient Yu clan's power was improving by leaps and bounds, but his power had been reduced greatly due to the age reversal curse. He had made his way back after great difficulty, only to be reinstated in a position not of a high-ranking elder, but as someone even lower than the wardens. The people who had once respected him were all now climbing over his head, which made him grit his teeth in despair. Wasn't he the one who had recommended Elder Mo to enter the ancient Yu clan? But now, Elder Mo was treating him like a pitiful dog to be kept by his side. Looking at the two wardens discussing the attack on the Temple of Shadows, a cold smile flashed across Yu Qiong's face. After making sure he was alone, he secretly crushed a spirit stone in his sleeve. Back in the Temple of Shadows, Yi Qingtang smiled as she saw the spirit stones on her table shatter. All arrangements are in order in the ancient Yu clan? Ling Yan asked as he looked at her. She nodded. The pieces are all in place, and all we have to do now is rely on the performance of Shuefu and the rest. Is your Netherworld Ring completed? Without saying anything, Ling Yan placed a pure black ring in her hands. The moment the ring touched her, a wave of coldness washed over her palm, and she stared at the ring in shock. What do you think? Yi Qingtang took a few more glances at the fake Netherworld Ring. She had asked Ling Yan repeatedly whether he was sure of the design when he had drawn it out. He had affirmed it over and over again. The ring that she was looking at was identical to the one on the paper. Even the feeling of it on her skin was as Ling Yan had told her. It looks exactly like the real one. Ling Yin smiled and said, "It merely looks like the real one. But since the ancient Yu clan don't know much about it, they probably won't be able to tell that it's a fake. However, if it lands into the hands of the Crimson League, they will be able to tell that it's not the real one." Yi Qingtang looked at him, a nagging feeling at the back of her mind that his words were not as simple as they seemed. But she had no time to worry about all of this now. Now that she had the fake Netherworld ring, she quickly went to gather the group she was sending to the Frost Abyss. Yi Qingtang wasn't planning on going herself, or sending Mingdi even though she wanted to prevent the ancient Yu clan from stealing the ring. After all, this was below their station. When all preparations were done, she placed the Netherworld ring in a beautiful box and handed it over to Xue Fu, who was leading a group of the undead clan to the Frost Abyss. It was the last day the person in the black robes had given them. Chapter 1993, Theft 3. In order to show her sincerity towards the Crimson League, she had included a few other gifts as well. The Temple of Shadows was quite a distance away from the ancient Yu clan. Xue Fu was treating the Netherworld ring as though it was real, and transporting it carefully to the Frost Abyss. But just as they were halfway through their journey, Xue Fu suddenly stopped the group and looked sharply at the road in front of them. There was a group of people waiting for them on the wide road. "Is that the ancient Yu clan?" The goblin tribe leader, who had followed on this journey, stepped forward in surprise. Xue Fu frowned. His heart sank as he looked at the menacing expressions of the ancient Yu clan. At the same time, Yu Qiong and the two wardens that he had brought with him saw the group from the Temple of Shadows as well. Their eyes lit up. I guess the information was right after all. The Temple of Shadows really is transporting something. The Guardian is also here personally, which means that it must be something important. One of the wardens looked at the cart full of beautiful boxes. Go. Without hesitating after spotting their target, the ancient Yu clan rushed forward with the few strong men they had brought along. Xue Fu screamed silently in apprehension as he saw the ancient Yu clan make a move. Ancient Yu clan, you dare? What a joke. Why would we be scared? I might be able to spare your lives if you leave your things with us. The ancient Yu clan warden spat out with a cold laugh. We are required to transport this elsewhere. Don't you dare steal it from us. Xue Fu shouted. And where are you sending this to? No matter where you were planning on going, this belongs to us now. There is nothing in the world the ancient Yu clan doesn't dare to take. The skirmish started in an instant. Even though the Temple of Shadows had the advantage in numbers, the youths that the ancient Yu clan had brought were extremely powerful. Even Ming Wang wouldn't be a match for them, let alone the wardens that were there as well. In the blink of an eye, the group from the Temple of Shadows had been beaten into the ground. Xue Fu was giving his all to resist, but could only watch as an ancient Yu clan youth took the cart from in front of him and brought it back to the ancient Yu clan camp. Guardian, what should we do? Xue Fu narrowed his eyes. He knew that their strength was completely mismatched, and that within the Temple of Shadows, only Mingdi and the Holy Lord of Shadows were a match for these youths. The items had already been stolen. They would only die if they continued to resist. Retreat. After weighing his options, Xue Fu could only choose to retreat. Seeing the Temple of Shadows retreat pathetically, the two ancient Yu clan wardens laughed loudly. Who cares about the Temple of Shadows? They were beaten just like everyone else. Yu Qiong, who was at the side, glanced at the arrogant wardens and secretly gave a cold laugh. Even though he wasn't sure why Yi Qingtang had wanted him to spread this news and let the ancient Yu clan steal the items, he knew that she wouldn't let them take advantage of this easily. The ancient Yu clan returned with the cart full of loot. The two wardens opened the beautiful box to see what was inside. They laughed gleefully as they saw countless jewels inside. Their eyes brightened as they opened the last box and saw the black ring laying silently inside. The Netherworld ring. Chapter 1994. Truth and Lies 1. The two wardens had been doubting the information that Yu Qiong had given them, and hadn't been sure whether the Temple of Shadows was really transporting the Netherworld ring. But now, their faces lit up in glee as they held the Netherworld ring in their hands. They quickly put the netherworld ring into their pocket and prepared to take credit for it. The Temple of Shadows has suffered a huge loss this time. They must have never even dreamed that the netherworld ring would land in our hands. One of the wardens said proudly. A guard standing to the side remarked, "We wouldn't have done it without your wits." Once the Holy Lord of Shadows hears about this, she will be so furious she won't be able to resist coming to fight us, a warden said coldly. Yu Qiong, who had been ignored all this time, stared at the Dharma treasure-filled cart with doubt in his eyes. He had originally thought that Yi Qingtang let him leak this information so that they could ambush the ancient Yu clan. He didn't expect for them to really steal these items. Even the netherworld ring had fallen into the hands of the ancient Yu clan. He didn't understand what the Holy Lord of Shadows was thinking of at all. The group from the ancient Yu clan returned proudly this time, with the two wardens fighting to take credit for everything. Elder Emo glanced at the netherworld ring and the other Dharma treasures with a strange look in his eyes. "Have you checked all the Dharma treasures properly?" he asked. "Don't worry, Elder. We've inspected everything carefully and have not found any abnormalities. They're all fine Dharma treasures, but we've never seen the netherworld ring before. We've only seen it in pictures and have never touched it before." One of the wardens stepped forward and said. They were afraid that the Temple of Shadows had tricked them at first, but confirmed that the treasures were real after inspecting them. Elder Emo didn't trust the wardens that easily and personally went to inspect the Dharma treasure. He came to the same conclusion as them. Saving the netherworld ring for last, he placed it in his hands and felt the coldness from it. His eyes shone with delight. Just a touch of the netherworld ring will make you feel immensely cold, and not the coldness of temperature, but the coldness of your soul. Try it. Upon hearing this, the two wardens walked up one by one to place the ring in their hands. Somehow this coldness made them even happier. They hadn't touched it at all after obtaining it, and had left it in its box all this while. "Elder Emo, you mean this netherworld ring is real?" Elder Emo took the ring back from them and nodded. "That's right. I will be sure to inform the master of your efforts tomorrow." They had retaliated against the Temple of Shadows, obtained many Dharma treasures, and also gotten their hands on the netherworld ring. It was a great victory for the ancient Yu clan. "Thank you, Elder Emo." Elder Emo instructed them to put the Dharma treasures into the treasure house, and turned his sights on Yu Qiong. "Yu Qiong, you've done well this time." Yu Qiong stepped forward and said politely, "It's my honor to be able to serve my clan." Seemingly satisfied with his attitude, Elder Emo gave a slight nod, before he praised him briefly and sent him out. Chapter 1995. Truth and Lies. 2. A holy artifact as powerful as the netherworld ring had to be passed on to the clan leader. Elder Emo had no intention of keeping it. Just as the ancient Yu clan was celebrating their successful robbing of the Temple of Shadows, the deadline that the Crimson League had given the temple passed silently. Lady Ghost and several other people were busy organizing the latest information within the Temple of Shadows when a loud sound came from the outside. Lady Ghost's expression changed slightly, but before she could step out of the main hall, a gust of wind blasted in. "Emo Yao, get out here at once." Baiji rushed into the main hall on the black mist. Her beautiful face was contorted in anger. "Lady Baiji, what do you think you're doing?" Lady Ghost recognized her, but had no idea what she was doing here. Without even looking at Lady Ghost, Baiji raised her hand, and a tendril of smoke flew towards Lady Ghost and wrapped around her neck, lifting her into the air. "Emo Yao, you'd better get out here at once, or I will make sure to slaughter the entire undead clan in the Temple of Shadows and raze this entire place to the ground." Baiji exclaimed coldly as a strong force enveloped the Temple of Shadows. Her voice was transmitted to every corner of the Temple of Shadows. The ancient clan who had suffered in her hands all trembled as they heard her angry voice, and none of them dared leave their spot. This devil wasn't someone they could deal with. Under the wrath of Baiji, Yi Qingtang walked out of the temple with Ming Wang and the 8 tribe leaders. The faces of the 8 tribe leaders all drooped as they saw Lady Ghost in the clutches of Baiji. "Baiji, what is the meaning of this?" Baiji looked at Yi Qingtang, who was in the lead, her expression extremely frosty. What is the meaning of this? Mo Yao, this should be a question for you. Your 7 days are out, yet you still refuse to hand over the Netherworld ring. Do you really think that the Crimson League wouldn't dare to touch the Temple of Shadows? Baiji, don't you dare come here spewing lies at us. Our Holy Lord has already sent the Guardian to personally deliver the Netherworld ring to the Frost Abyss yesterday, the Demon Tribe leader retorted. What a joke. You think we're just going to take your words as truth? Why haven't I seen the Netherworld ring then? Baiji sneered coldly before she looked straight at Yi Qingtang and continued. The Crimson League demands the Netherworld ring. Since you are not willing to hand it over nicely, don't blame me for going all out. Seeing that Baiji was about to make a move, Yi Qingtang, who had been quiet all this time, suddenly spoke. You didn't receive the Netherworld ring? What rubbish are you spouting? Why else would I come here then? Baiji said with a cold smile. Yi Qingtang pretended to have a confused look on her face. Baiji, I don't care what you think, but since I've already promised to deliver the Netherworld ring to the Crimson League, I wouldn't go back on my word. Do you really think that I would destroy my relationship with the Crimson League just for the Netherworld ring? She paused for a moment before continuing. I did send several men off to deliver the Netherworld ring to the Frost Abyss yesterday. Perhaps they mistook the time. You can go back to the Frost Abyss to see for yourself. Do you think I'm an idiot? Baiji asked. Whether you believe me is up to you. The Temple of Shadows is here after all, and it's not going anywhere, Yi Qingtang said. You can ask around yourself. It's my loss if you actually find the ring. When Baiji saw how calm and confident Yi Qingtang was, a sliver of doubt entered her mind. Chapter 1996. Truth and Lies 3. Even though the Holy Lord of Shadows and her had been at odds for the longest time, she couldn't deny that the Holy Lord of Shadows had always kept her word. I'll give you one last chance to defend yourself. Baiji scoffed and took out a voice transmission stone. She drew a border with her hand, so Yi Qingtang and the rest couldn't hear her, and seemed to be using it to contact the other two of the alien race. The Demon Tribe leader twisted his mouth in contempt as he looked at Baiji talking to her comrades. I think the Crimson League is probably trying to push the blame onto us. I saw with my own 2 eyes the Holy Lord placing the Netherworld ring into the box, and instructing Xuefu to go with it. How could it not have arrived in the Frost Abyss yet? The other tribe leaders were all thinking the same thing. Although Yi Qingtang didn't say anything, she was secretly overjoyed. Seeing that Baiji had come here personally, the ancient Yu clan must have succeeded. If nothing else went wrong, Xuefu and the rest should be coming back to the Temple of Shadows soon. The show was just about to begin. She had thrown in many Dharma treasures to ensure that the ancient Yu clan would believe that it was the real Netherworld ring. She hoped that they wouldn't let her down. Baiji brought down the border after a while, and threw them an impassive glance. Thinking that she had already received the Netherworld ring, the Demon Tribe leader was about to speak. But in the next second, Baiji had flung Lady Ghost towards Yi Qingtang. She quickly raised her hand and saved her. The 8 tribe leaders all watched on tensely. Baiji, what are you doing? What? Baiji laughed in anger as she lifted her chin slightly and looked at Yi Qingtang. Mo Yao, I really misjudged you. I didn't think that you would learn how to lie so smoothly after going to the first domain. Baiji's eyes changed as she continued. No one has sent the Netherworld ring to the Frost Abyss, and my comrades haven't received any ring. What else do you have to say? Seeing that Baiji was about to cause mass destruction, Yi Qingtang broke out in cold sweat. If she were to let loose here, she was afraid that Ming Di was probably the only one who could deal with her. Xuefu, please don't let me down. Hurry back. Right at this critical moment, a pathetic figure suddenly appeared in the main hall. Yi Qingtang's heart leaped with joy as she saw the people approaching. My savior, you came just in time. A downtrodden Xuefu rushed into the main hall and saw the angry Baiji ready to attack. He froze in shock. Guardian Xuefu, you came back right in time. Tell this crazy woman, Lady Baiji, that you've already sent it to the Frost Abyss, the Demon Tribe leader said. The Goblin Tribe spoke up as well. Lady Baiji, please calm down. I instructed Guardian Xuefu to deliver the Netherworld ring himself. He's back now and can tell you so himself. A suspicious glint appeared in Baiji's eyes as she observed the group of people, but she decided to wait and see. What other excuses could they cook up? They couldn't run anyway. You've delivered the Netherworld ring? Baiji turned to ask Xuefu. Xuefu's face was white. He looked at Baiji, and then back at Yi Qingtang, and without saying a word, ran towards her. Holy Lord, I deserve to die. The Netherworld ring and the other Dharma treasures were stolen by the ancient Yu clan on the way to the Frost Abyss. Chapter 1997. Sowing Discord 1. The main hall fell into a deathly silence. Baiji suddenly laughed as she looked at Yi Qingtang. Mo Yao, you're really surprising me more and more with your audacity. You actually put up such an elaborate show, just to keep the Netherworld ring for yourself. Yi Qingtang looked back at her. It's a show all right, just not the way you're thinking. Retracting her gaze, she turned her sights on Xuefu. What happened? Xuefu didn't dare keep anything to himself, and spilled all of the details about the ancient Yu clan's theft. He had no idea that the ancient Yu clan would attack them. The ancient Yu clan and the Temple of Shadows had been at odds for the longest time. They rarely crossed paths with each other apart from this encounter, which was why Xuefu had never expected them to be attacked. Yet he had no idea how many times his master and Mingdi had provoked the ancient Yu clan. Meanwhile, Baiji looked on coldly from the side, not taking into account Xuefu's words at all. This is coming from your mouth and you're on the same side. Of course you can say anything you want. Without speaking, Yi Qingtang walked over to Xuefu. Under Xuefu's guilty gaze, she raised her hand and took off the earring on his ear, then passed it to Baiji. You can take a look yourself if you don't believe him. What's that? Baiji asked as she looked at the earring in her hand. Xuefu was confused as well. Yi Qingtang had given him that earring before he left, and he had thought that it was her reward to him. I knew that you wouldn't believe that I would hand over the Netherworld ring. I was also worried that the Crimson League would deny it after I handed over the Netherworld ring. So I used the Drawing Spirit Stone to make this, and gave it to Xuefu, Yi Qingtang said. The Drawing Spirit Stone was one which could record everything it saw, but it was extremely rare, and she had only heard of, and had never seen it before in her previous life. Ling Yin had given her this Drawing Spirit Stone. She suspected that he had already foresaw all of this, and knew that the Drawing Spirit Stone would be useful here. That damn sly demon. Baiji had obviously heard of the Drawing Spirit Stone. It could only be used one, and would become useless after that. The doubt was evident on her face, as she opened the Spirit Stone. In the next second, an image suddenly appeared in the main hall of the Temple of Shadows. In the floating scene, Yi Qingtang put the Netherworld ring into the beautiful box, and personally handed it to Xuefu. But after leaving the Temple of Shadows, Xuefu and the group were indeed ambushed by the ancient Yu clan. Everything that happened next was as Xuefu had said. Baiji's face got darker and darker, as she heard the ancient Yu clan warden proclaiming that there was no one they dared not rob in the world. How daring of them to steal something from the Crimson League! Baiji smiled as a steely glint flashed in her eyes. How dare someone from the First Domain steal from the Crimson League? They were asking for death. Yi Qingtang felt relieved as she looked at Baiji's reaction. But she remained calm on the surface. I never knew that the ancient Yu clan had such guts. But thinking back about it, I don't think they knew that this was for the Crimson League. After all, Xuefu hadn't at any point disclosed who the items were for. And Yi Qingtang didn't want to accuse the ancient Yu clan at this point in time yet. Chapter 1998. Sowing Discord 2. A cold scoff left Baiji's lips as she sneered at them. This is a mistake that involves the Temple of Shadows as well. Contact the ancient Yu clan, and ask them to return the Netherworld ring immediately. Baiji felt that the ancient Yu clan would never have dared to touch it, if they had known that it belonged to the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. I'll give you 3 days. After 3 days, I'll go with you to the ancient Yu clan to get the Netherworld ring. Unable to obtain the Netherworld ring, and unable to vent her anger anywhere, Baiji scoffed coldly and flew off. Outside the Temple of Shadows, the 8 tribe leaders were all looking gloomy. They had never expected to run into trouble delivering the Netherworld ring. Xuefu was still kneeling on the ground, guilt gnawing at his insides to the point he felt as though it was almost swallowing him whole. This is all my fault. I never expected the ancient Yu clan to act, or I would have asked Ming Di to go. Yi Qingtang sighed. Good job on stealing it. It's my fault for being too weak. I wasn't able to protect the Netherworld ring, and caused the Holy Lord such trouble. Let me personally head over to the ancient Yu clan to demand it back, Xuefu said. I'll leave this to you then, said Yi Qingtang. Yes. Having found a way to make amends for his failure, Xuefu immediately retreated. Without even stopping for a break, he quickly headed to the ancient Yu clan to inform them that the Netherworld ring belonged to the Crimson League, to force them to hand it over. Yi Qingtang returned to her room. On her bed was Ling Yan, who seemed to be tired from waiting for news. She was greeted with the sight of a sleeping beauty as she entered her room. Elated and not wanting to think too much, she walked forward and patted him awake. It's done. Ling Yan got up sleepily and looked at the smiling Yi Qingtang. Congratulations. His voice was husky and thick with sleep and made her heart itch. Your idea was still the best. Everything fell into place beautifully without much effort with the drawing spirit stone, she said. This is just the beginning. With the ancient Yu clan's current power, they probably won't provoke the Crimson League. It's likely that they will return the Netherworld ring, and when they do, the Crimson League will realize that the ring is fake. Ling Yan said with a huge smile. You're sure that the Crimson League can tell that the ring is fake? Yi Qingtang asked. There are probably people in the ancient Yu clan who will be able to tell that the Netherworld ring is a fake, but with the rush and the other real Dharma treasures that Lady Yi placed in there, they probably won't look too closely. They won't be able to tell that the Netherworld ring I made is fake without using it. Ling Yan paused for a while before he continued. As for using it, only people with a certain power, and with demon blood in their veins can use it. There are very few of such people in the ancient Yu clan, and they must have been rushing to hand it over to their clan leader. It will be too late once he has found someone to use it. At that time, the Crimson League would have found their way to them, and they would have no choice but to hand it over. The Crimson League will realize soon after they get the ring, and the ancient Yu clan won't be able to explain themselves afterwards, Ling Yan said happily. They could always say that they had taken the Crimson League's item by accident, but they would get into trouble after trying to use a fake ring to trick the Crimson League. Chapter 1999, Sowing Discord 3. I can't wait for the ancient Yu clan to finish themselves off. Even if the Crimson League doesn't want to make a move, they won't be able to forgive the ancient Yu clan for stealing what's theirs and fooling them. Just the thought alone made Qingtang feel a sense of joy bursting out from inside her. She could vaguely understand the satisfaction that Ling Yan got from playing everyone around him like chess pieces now. You've worked hard. She looked at him. Even she felt tired from looking at the complicated process of creating the fake Netherworld ring. A smile crossed his lips as he said, Anything for you, Miss Yi. Yi Qingtang was speechless. Why was he talking like this? Miss Yi, I'm feeling a little tired. Could you let me rest a little while? He suddenly asked. She nodded and went to open the door for him to go back to his room, only to see him lie back on her bed and fall asleep. Yi Qingtang. What she meant was for him to go back to his room to take a rest. But she couldn't bear to wake him after seeing him sleep so deeply, so she went to sleep on the soft couch hugging the little white tiger. The news of the male pet Ling Yan spending a night in the Holy Lord's room quickly spread across the Temple of Shadows. Meanwhile, within the ancient Yu clan, Elder Mo was elated to have gotten so many Dharma treasures, and was sending the Netherworld ring to the clan leader as quickly as was humanly possible. Just as he was about to leave, Xuefu arrived in a hurry at the valley the ancient Yu clan was located. Noticing Xuefu, the guard quickly informed the warden. As soon as the warden heard the news, he brought people outside the valley to greet Xuefu, who had recently been beaten by them. The warden's anger was about to explode. Aren't you the guardian from the Temple of Shadows, Xuefu? What are you doing in the ancient Yu clan's territory? Did you come seeking death again? The warden spat out savagely. Xuefu looked coldly at the warden. I'm here today to tell you one thing. And what is that? The warden cocked his ear to listen. You stole the Dharma treasures I was delivering the other day. That's right, we took them. An arrogant sneer was on the warden's face. Those belong to the Crimson League. My master was instructing me to deliver them that day, Xuefu said. The warden seemed to not be listening clearly and said, I don't care who you're delivering it to. It belongs to the ancient Yu clan now. He was still feeling arrogant when he realized that something was amiss. Who did you say these belonged to? The warden's expression changed quickly as he asked. The Crimson League, Xuefu said coldly. The warden's face turned ashen. You're referring to the Crimson League from the second domain? That Crimson League? That's right. Xuefu nodded and continued without waiting for the warden to speak. Let's not talk about the animosity between the Temple of Shadows and the Crimson League. The Netherworld Ring and other Dharma treasures were meant for the Crimson League. In 3 days, I will be returning with people from the Crimson League to retrieve them. What you decide on is up to you. With that, Xuefu turned and left. He believed that the ancient Yu clan wasn't dumb enough to offend the powers of the second domain. The warden's face was as dark as the underside of a burnt pot when Xuefu left. The Netherworld Ring belonged to the Crimson League? How could this be? Chapter 2000. Good Show 1. The warden was dumbfounded. While he wasn't certain if Xuefu was speaking the truth or not, he didn't dare to just ignore it since it concerned the second domain's influence. He instantly broke the news to Elder Mo, who had just gifted the Netherworld Ring to the clan leader. Did Xuefu really say that the Netherworld Ring is supposed to be given to the Crimson League? Elder Mo's expression darkened. He wasn't afraid of a mere Temple of Shadows. He would eventually have to get rid of them. But if it concerned the Crimson League, yes, Xuefu really said that, the warden uttered. Elder Mo's brows furrowed and was immersed in deep thought. The Crimson League was part of the second domain and was a force to be reckoned with. Those from the central mainland may not know the ancient Yu clan's true aim, but Elder Mo knew it deeply. The ancient Yu clan's aim wasn't the central mainland, nor the first domain, but the second domain. They made use of little Yu Yun's spiritual abode to increase their cultivation state to the point that they could already enter the second domain. The reason they remained in the central mainland was so that they could quickly collect the fragments of the spirit of chaos to increase the ancient Yu clan's cultivation state again. However, at this point in time, the ancient Yu clan certainly didn't want to come face to face with the second domain's powers. It was even more so when faced with the powerful Crimson League. Xuefu said that he would come with the Crimson League's people in 3 days' time? Elder Mo asked. Yes. The warden nodded. We shall see. Elder Mo murmured with a cautious attitude. It would be a sticky mess if they really did snatch something from the Crimson League. After making sure everything was taken care of, Elder Mo quickly broke the news to the clan leader. The clan leader of the ancient Yu clan almost spat out blood, knowing that the Netherworld Ring would cause such trouble for them right after it came under their possession. I'll leave the Netherworld Ring with you for the time being. If anyone from the Crimson League comes, just pass it to them, and let them know it's just a misunderstanding. If no one comes, it means that the Temple of Shadows fooled us again. We don't need to show mercy anymore. The clan leader gave the orders. It wasn't time for them to provoke the powers from the second domain. Moreover, it would mean war for the ancient Yu clan if they were to get into a fight with the Crimson League now. The ancient Yu clan could do almost everything they wanted in the central mainland, but when it came to the second domain, as the ancient Yu clan was pulled into doubt about the situation, Xuefu had already returned to the Temple of Shadows and was seeking forgiveness from Yi Qingtang. Having no choice, Yi Qingtang gave a small punishment and brushed it off. Xuefu was filled with gratitude and felt even more guilty towards her. He went to the prison and requested for Lady Ghost to administer punishment on him. Yi Qingtang was speechless when she learned about it. The undead clan seemed to be strange like that. Yi Qingtang was in no hurry at all. Everything was laid out, and all that was left was for the good show to begin. 3 days passed by just like that. Bai Ji came to the Temple of Shadows as scheduled. Yi Qingtang had been waiting for her arrival long ago. Even though Yi Qingtang wore a mask, when she saw Bai Ji, she remained composed. However, she was feeling excited inside, waiting for a good show. Bai Ji stepped into the temple with an imposing aura. She looked around before she asked, "Where's the ancient Yu clan?" Bai Ji very obviously thought that the ancient Yu clan should hand the ring over to them, after snatching what belonged to the Crimson League. "Lady Bai Ji, I sent someone to inform the ancient Yu clan about it 3 days ago. However, the ancient Yu clan didn't respond. I might have to trouble you to follow me over to the ancient Yu clan's place to obtain the Netherworld ring," Xuefu said. Chapter 2001, Good Show 2. What a joke, you're telling me to go there personally. There was no doubt that Bai Ji was livid. Xuefu said, "The ancient Yu clan might not believe that the Netherworld ring really belongs to the Crimson League, so I need Lady Bai Ji to go with me." "Humph." Bai Ji scoffed coldly with an impatient look on her face. Despite Bai Ji's reaction, Yi Qingtang wasn't worried at all and merely said, "You don't have to go if you don't want the Netherworld ring back." Bai Ji narrowed her eyes at Yi Qingtang. The League chief had requested for the Netherworld ring specifically, and they had to return with it. There was no room for failure. "Lead the way," she said coldly. Xuefu sighed in relief after hearing this, and started heading towards the ancient Yu clan with Bai Ji. Ming Wang looked at Bai Ji, who was leaving the main hall, and turned back to look at Yi Qingtang. "Holy Lord, you're not going?" She nodded simply. "Aren't we just getting something back? We don't need that many people for that." With that, she got up slowly and walked back into the temple. But her expression quickly changed as she went back into the palace. She headed straight for Ling Yan's room, scooped him up and flew towards the ancient Yu clan as quickly as she could. The chess pieces were all in place. How could she possibly miss this good show? "Miss Yi?" Ling Yan was still drowsy and he was lifted into the air by Yi Qingtang. "In bringing you to the ancient Yu clan to see something good," she said with a smile. She couldn't wait to see Bai Ji's expression after obtaining the Netherworld ring. As he looked at her gleeful face, Ling Yan dissolved into laughter. She felt a sudden tightness around her waist, and turned to see Ling Yan hugging her waist tightly. She was speechless. An innocent look stared back at her. "I'm weak, so I'll be gravely injured if I fall," he said honestly with no shame at all. The corners of Yi Qingtang's lips twitched slightly. He was weak but not to the extent that he would die if he fell from such a height. "I'm also afraid of heights," he said with an unchanging expression. Yi Qingtang was speechless. Could he be any more shameless? But she couldn't drop him. So she just quickened her speed and flew towards the ancient Yu clan. She didn't ask for more people to follow them, so that the Crimson League wouldn't sense anything amiss. The more natural they acted, the more they could pass it off as an accident. Furthermore, she was extremely intelligent and had never accused the ancient Yu clan directly. She had maintained that it could be a misunderstanding all this while. After all, when the time came, there would be no need for it since the Crimson League would accuse them themselves and destroy them. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qingtang and Ling Yan were at the valley the ancient Yu clan was based in, hidden in the forest behind. Xuefu and Bai Ji had already arrived. The two wardens who had stolen from them previously, and Yu Qiong were already standing outside the valley, and they stared in shock at Xuefu and the alien race girl in front of them. They had really come? Bai Ji landed slowly, and her gaze silently swept over the ancient Yu clan people. She gestured for Xuefu to settle everything. It was already rare that she was showing up to deal with matters regarding the first domain herself. There would be nothing more humiliating than to have her speak with these lowlifes. Xuefu seemed to understand her meaning and stepped forward. "This is Lady Bai Ji from the Crimson League. Please return the Netherworld ring that you stole from us previously." The resentment between the ancient Yu clan and the Temple of Shadows had nothing to do with the Crimson League. Chapter 2002, Good Show 3. Yi Qingtang gave Xuefu a silent thumbs up from where she was hidden. "Well done." The more Bai Ji thought that the Temple of Shadows had nothing to do with this, the more sinister the ancient Yu clan would seem. The two wardens from the ancient Yu clan looked extremely serious as they looked at Xuefu and Baiji. You say that she's from the Crimson League, but what proof do you have? One of the wardens snapped. The Temple of Shadows was made up of the forces of the undead clan after all. Who knew how many alien races there were after all? Did they simply bring one of them here to pass off as a member of a Crimson League, thinking that they would be tricked so easily? Xuefu frowned and was about to speak when Baiji finally lost her patience. Without waiting for the warden to say anything else, she touched the ground lightly with her feet. In an instant, a vine burst forth from beneath her feet and spread out from her like snakes. The two wardens were covered in vines before they could react. The vines quickly swallowed the guards beside them as well. Yu Qiong was pulled into the vines as well, which had small thorns on them, and quickly pierced the skin of the people within them. But what surprised him even more that the thorns were slowly sucking on their blood. Within mere moments, the vines turned red after drawing their blood. The wardens quickly turned white. How terrifying was her power! Just a light touch of her foot was enough to cover the earth with so many vines. I don't have the time to speak with you insects. Hand the netherworld ring over, Baiji said with a frown. The wardens were already screeching in agony as the thorns pierced them, draining them of their life by the second. Stop! A wizened old voice spoke out. Elder Emo suddenly appeared outside the valley with a few young men, who suddenly charged at Baiji, as they saw the ancient Yu clan people under attack. You're in the way, Baiji said without moving an inch from where she was. The vines under her feet seemed to come to live, and grabbed the people flying to the ground. In an instant Elder Mo's face darkened. These young men had all been reformed by the spiritual abode, and any one of them could destroy one clan by themselves. Yet all their might today wouldn't even let them get within 10 meters of this alien race girl. This was not the kind of power that anyone in the central mainland could possess. Everyone stop. Elder Emo quickly understood the situation. He quickly stopped his attack, and called the youths back. May I know which sect you are from? Elder Emo asked Baiji. The ancient Yu clan has taken something that belongs to the Crimson League. You are asking me who I am? Baiji said coldly. Elder Mo's heart was beating hard against his chest. He had been doubting the Temple of Shadows' claims about the Crimson League. But now that he had personally witnessed the might of Baiji, he could confirm this was true. And the thought made his head want to explode. How could the ancient Yu clan afford to get on the Crimson League's bad side? Especially at this time. Elder Emo quickly said with a smile. I can see that you are from the Crimson League. Please forgive us for our previous disrespect. Chapter 2003, Good Show 4. Cut the crap. Hand over the netherworld ring, Baiji said. Elder Emo could only sigh. This entire situation is a misunderstanding. We didn't know that the netherworld ring belonged to the Crimson League. Since it's a misunderstanding, we certainly have to return the netherworld ring to its owner. With that, Elder Emo took out the netherworld ring and handed it to Baiji. They would suffer grave losses if they were to provoke the Crimson League just because of the netherworld ring. Baiji revealed a look of satisfaction when the ring was handed over to her. You are very sensible. Baiji didn't bother wasting any more time with Elder Emo once she got the ring from him. She turned around to leave the place. After all, she only wanted the netherworld ring. Xuefu also left, leaving the dumbfounded Yi Qingtang behind. Yi Qingtang was waiting to watch a good show, but nothing actually happened. Baiji left without even checking it. Yi Qingtang looked in Baiji's direction. She had already flown far away. Wasn't she supposed to check it and get into a fight with them? She had already mentally prepared herself for that. When Ling Yin saw the lifeless expression on Yi Qingtang's face, he couldn't help but let out a chuckle. Miss Yi, what's the matter? Only the person in the black robes can authenticate the netherworld ring, Ling Yin reminded. Yi Qingtang was speechless. The person in the black robes has a strong death aura. I presume he is of demon blood. Miss Yi, don't worry. I'm sure the Crimson League is capable of authenticating it. Ling Yin tried to comfort Yi Qingtang when he noticed her disappointment. Yi Qingtang didn't move. He'll be waiting. Ling Yin couldn't help but laugh. Baiji flew back to the frost abyss in the shortest time possible. Inside the fox demon's cave, the person in black robes and the porcelain man were discussing something with the fox demon. When they noticed Baiji's arrival, they stopped talking about it. How was it? The person in black robes asked. How could it possibly go wrong? The ancient Yu clan didn't dare hesitate at all. They returned the netherworld ring just like that. Baiji put the box containing the netherworld ring down on the table and casually sat down. How dare Mo Yao say that the ancient Yu clan is eyeing the Crimson League? That's a complete joke. You would have seen how intimidated the ancient Yu clan was if you were there. When they heard of the Crimson League, they probably wet their pants. How dare these cowards even try to compete with the Crimson League? Baiji scoffed. The ancient Yu clan was fearful? The porcelain man's face didn't move even a bit when he asked. Of course. It seems like Mo Yao might not have spoken the truth. Thankfully, we have the netherworld ring in our hands now. What about the Temple of Shadows? The porcelain man asked the person in black robes. The person in black robes didn't answer. He opened the box containing the netherworld ring and took the ring out, placing it around his finger. When the person in black robes stretched his hand out, his hand didn't look like a hand at all. It was just a ball of black smoke, forming the shape of a hand. There was no skin, no bones. When the person in black robes put the ring on his finger, huge gusts of black smoke rushed out from his black robe. The smoke rushed towards the netherworld ring. Right when the black smoke rushed towards the netherworld ring, the netherworld ring made a crisp sound. The ring shattered in the next moment. Chapter 2004, Good Show 5. What's going on? Baiji was confused when she saw the netherworld ring shatter into pieces. The fox demon and the others' expressions also changed. The person in black robes didn't say anything. He merely spread his fingers and absorbed the shattered pieces into his palm. Then he suddenly smashed the shattered pieces into the ice table. Baiji, you've been fooled. A dark voice came from the black robe. What? Baiji was stunned. This is not the netherworld ring. It's just a fake. The person in black robe's voice was filled with displeasure. Hearing the words, Baiji collected herself, and she looked at the shattered pieces that were smashed into the ice table. Though it just seemed like black, the corners of the broken pieces were obviously dark gray. Fake. How could that be? I brought it back personally. It was with me the entire time, Baiji said. The person in black robes just scoffed. Nothing went wrong during the process of you bringing it back. This thing was a fake from the beginning. Baiji's face blanched. How dare the ancient Yu clan use a fake to fool me? No one would have thought that the netherworld ring would be a fake. So, the Holy Lord of Shadows was speaking the truth. The fox demon's brows furrowed. They didn't think that the ancient Yu clan would have the guts to act against the Crimson League. But things turned out to be different from what they thought. The ancient Yu clan is too brazen. How dare they attempt to fool the Crimson League? Baiji gnashed her teeth angrily. She wanted to ruin the ancient Yu clan when she learned that she had been fooled by the humans of the first domain. Could this be the Holy Lord of Shadows' plan? Could the netherworld ring have been a fake in the first place? The fox demon asked. The person in black robes shook his head. If it wasn't for the ancient Yu clan's sudden interception, the netherworld ring would have landed in our hands. The Temple of Shadows would be courting their own death if they were to hand the fake ring to the Crimson League. The person in black robes' guess wasn't wrong, but he hadn't figured out Yi Qingtang was behind the ancient Yu clan's interception. So Mo Yao's words are reliable? The ancient Yu clan is this ambitious, and the Crimson League is nothing to them now. They started by snatching something belonging to us, and now they fooled us with a fake. The fox demon's expression darkened. The person in black robes didn't say anything. He got up all of a sudden and flew out of the cave. Baiji and the other alien race followed behind. Outside the ancient Yu clan's valley, Yi Qingtang and Ling Yan remained in the forest for quite some time. She lifted her eyes to look at the skies now and then, waiting for the arrival of the three people from the Crimson League. She was determined to see it with her own eyes. They didn't make Yi Qingtang wait that long. In just a while, the mutant wind snake appeared in the skies. Yi Qingtang's eyes lit up. They're here. There were a few guards from the ancient Yu clan guarding at the entrance of the valley. The two wardens hadn't left yet, but Yu Qiong was already nowhere to be seen. The two wardens were still troubling over the mess they've gotten themselves into. When they heard some sounds, they immediately turned back and saw the huge mutant wind snake in the sky. It was charging towards the valley. What is that? Chapter 2005, Good Show 6. Is it the Crimson League? One warden immediately recognized Bai Ji, who rode on the back of the mutant wind snake. The two wardens looked at each other and instantly stepped forward. How can we be of any help to the ambassadors of the Crimson League? Right after they said that, Bai Ji jumped off the back of the mutant wind snake and appeared right in front of them. She grabbed their necks forcibly and growled with flashing eyes. How dare you fool me? Bai Ji had a dangerous look in her eyes. She felt humiliated every single time she recalled that these idiots from the first domain had fooled her. Fool you? Why do you say that? How did we fool you? One warden quickly responded. He just couldn't figure out how they even offended the Crimson League. Hadn't they already returned the Netherworld ring? Why would the Crimson League even come back for them? Let alone the fact that she was in such rage. Before the warden could even finish his words, Bai Ji snapped his neck. A grown man's neck was as fragile as a chopstick in front of Bai Ji. The bones in his neck cracked, and his head rolled onto the ground. The morbid left the other warden so frightened he could barely stand. He simply couldn't figure out what had gone wrong. Why did she just lash out like that? Please spare my life. All the color drained from his face. The ancient Yu clan was now powerful enough to dominate the central mainland. But when faced with Bai Ji, who came from the second domain's central mainland, he wasn't capable of handling her. The ancient Yu clan's guards were shocked. They were at a loss and didn't know what to do. But they held the swords with a firmer grip, clenched fingers drenched in sweat. They had seen Bai Ji's powers with their own eyes. Even the warden wasn't a match for her. How would they stand a chance? Bai Ji. They heard a voice from behind the mutant wind snake. The dangerous look in Bai Ji's eyes only subsided after she heard the voice. The person in black robes rode on black wind and arrived. Who handed the Netherworld ring to you? The person in black robes asked. In response, Bai Ji threw a pointed glare at the warden. It was Elder Mo. Get that old scoundrel to come out now, Bai Ji sneered. Elder Mo is not here right now. He left right after you earlier on. May I know, what made you this angry? Is there any misunderstanding? The warden inquired. He was afraid that he would end up the same way as the other warden. So he left. That old scoundrel planned everything. Bai Ji grit her teeth as she figured everything out. Elder Mo escaped after making up excuses and giving her a fake Netherworld ring. How dare the ancient Yu clan fool the Crimson League with a fake Netherworld ring? I'm certain that I can find the Netherworld ring after I extinguish the ancient Yu clan. A murderous look flashed past Bai Ji's eyes. Before the warden could even speak, she snapped his neck. The next moment, Bai Ji was just like a gust of wind, and she flew into the ancient Yu clan's valley. The alien races didn't do anything. They just allowed Bai Ji to do anything. Outside the valley, the corners of Yi Qingtang's lips lifted into a smile. It seemed like the Crimson League had fallen into her trap. Chapter 2006, Working Together, 1. All good. Yi Qingtang looked at Ling Yan, speaking at a low volume that only the both of them could hear. A short nod from Ling Yan signaled for Yi Qingtang to leave first. It wasn't likely for this incident to just end so easily. Yi Qingtang was afraid that they would be exposed, and she quickly flew away with Ling Yan. This valley is only one of the ancient Yu clan's locations. I'm sure the Crimson League did this to assert dominance, Ling Yan said. Well, there's no way the ancient Yu clan can find the Netherworld ring and hand it over. They will not be able to make peace. Yi Qingtang was elated. After all, she had achieved her aims of dragging the Crimson League down. Sometime after Yi Qingtang returned to the Temple of Shadows, she used another voice transmission stone to contract Yu Qiong. Holy Lord. Yu Qiong's voice came from the voice transmission stone. How is it? Yi Qingtang asked. You're indeed formidable, Holy Lord. The Crimson League is at odds with the ancient Yu clan now. Yu Qiong sounded respectful. He was convinced that his life was in Yi Qingtang's hands, and didn't dare try anything. Oh, why is that? Yi Qingtang asked. Yu Qiong explained everything that happened in the valley after Yi Qingtang left. It was just as Yi Qingtang and Ling Yan had expected. Bai Ji had massacred the entire ancient Yu clan's valley. The ancient Yu clan had intended to train youths in the valley, but they eventually moved most of the equipment and youths somewhere else because of the Jiang family's incident. Fewer than 20 powerful youths guarding the place. They weren't of the highest grade, and naturally was no match for Bai Ji. It only took less than 12 hours for the ancient Yu clan's valley to be wiped out. Bai Ji left a letter behind in the ancient Yu clan's valley after killing everyone. She ordered the ancient Yu clan to return the Netherworld Ring. If not, they would be undermining the Crimson League's authority, and the Crimson League would declare war on the ancient Yu clan. Yi Qingtang was delighted when she learned of the news, but she remained calm on the outside. On the other hand, Yu Qiong figured out that Yi Qingtang had planned everything when he noticed that she was exceptionally calm. The Holy Lord of Shadows was terrifying. The Crimson League and Ancient Yu clan would never have imagined that their conflict was all planned by the Temple of Shadows. Got it. You did a good job. You can have your freedom once you complete everything, Yi Qingtang said. Yu Qiong didn't dare say a word. Yi Qingtang was in a good mood after hanging up. The ancient Yu clan had fallen straight into her trap. They thought that they had snatched up something good, but it was some trouble for them instead. Now the Crimson League was convinced that the ancient Yu clan has something up their sleeves, and they are determined to assert dominance. It could be resolved if the ancient Yu clan can find the Netherworld Ring and hand it over to the Crimson League, but they couldn't possibly do that. There was no authentic Netherworld Ring. The Netherworld Ring that the ancient Yu clan had snatched over was a fake. After all, Yi Qingtang had intentionally let them snatch it. The ancient Yu clan would never be able to clear their name now. 3 days later, the 3 alien races of the Crimson League appeared outside the Temple of Shadows. They weren't as arrogant as before. When they stood outside the Temple of Shadows, their behavior was surprisingly polite. Chapter 2007. Working together too. May I know the reason for your visit? You have already gotten the Netherworld Ring back, correct? Yi Qingtang remained composed while looking at them, acting like she was puzzled. She wasn't supposed to know anything. The corners of Bai Ji's lips twitched. She didn't say a word, and just looked at the person in black robes. The person in black robes spoke. You disappeared 10,000 years ago without giving any reason, and the Crimson League removed the Temple of Shadows from the League. 10,000 years later, the Temple of Shadows is no longer under the Crimson League. However, taking into consideration your sincerity towards the Crimson League, the League Chief is willing to accept the Temple of Shadows again. It took only 3 days for the Crimson League to completely fall out with the Ancient Yu clan. The Ancient Yu clan hadn't returned the Netherworld Ring, and the League Chief of the Crimson League was very displeased. It was inevitable, be it for the Netherworld Ring, or to uphold the Crimson League's dignity. The Crimson League's main powers were concentrated in the second domain. It wasn't appropriate to make such a big move just to act against a first domain power. This was the reason why the Crimson League's chief ordered the person in black robes to collaborate with the Temple of Shadows. The Temple of Shadows had a long presence in the central mainland and was clear about the ancient Yu clan's distribution channels. If they worked together, the Crimson League would need to spend fewer resources. When Yi Qingtang heard the person in black robe's words, she couldn't help but laugh inside. They put it in such a pleasant way that others would have thought that the Crimson League was magnanimous to accept the Temple of Shadows again. They really thought that she didn't know that it was because of the Netherworld Ring? Nevertheless, Yi Qingtang wouldn't just expose them like that. Re-accept us into the Crimson League? The person in black robes nodded. On the other hand, Bai Ji's expression was awful, but she didn't say a word. I appreciate the League Chief's good intentions. However, the central mainland is a mess right now. Furthermore, the ancient Yu clan is very ambitious. We may not even be able to protect ourselves during such times. If we return to the Crimson League, I'm afraid that we will implicate the central mainland. I don't think this will be good. Yi Qingtang acted as if she wanted to be responsible for herself. If you return to the Crimson League, the Temple of Shadows will not fight the ancient Yu clan alone. The Crimson League will not leave you defenseless, the person in black robes added. The corners of Yi Qingtang's lips kicked up. She had been waiting for them to say that. If that's the case, I will accept the League Chief's good intentions, Yi Qingtang answered. The person in black robes nodded. 10,000 years after its extrication, the Temple of Shadows returned to the Crimson League. The 8 tribe leaders and other important members of the Temple of Shadows smiled when they heard that. No matter what, it was good news for the Temple of Shadows to return to the Crimson League. I reported to the Crimson League about the ancient Yu clan's intentions. May I know how the investigation is going? Yi Qingtang suddenly asked. Bai Ji's expression turned even more awful. The person in black robes kept quiet for a moment. He didn't try to hide anything. We've investigated it. You were correct, and that's why the League Chief has confirmed your allegiance to the Crimson League. Yi Qingtang laughed. I surely wouldn't just make things up. I wasn't in the position to reveal too much previously, but since I'm back in the Crimson League, I guess I shouldn't hold back anymore. To be honest, I could already sense that the ancient Yu clan was coming at the Crimson League when they snatched the Netherworld Ring. Without any hesitation, Yi Qingtang wasted no time in accusing the ancient Yu clan. Why do you say that? The person in black robes asked. Chapter 2008. Working Together 3. The Frost Abyss is where those of alien races reside. If I was able to find out that the ambassadors from the Crimson League were there, with their power and influence, the ancient Yu clan would definitely know about it too, Yi Qingtang said. Even though we didn't see eye to eye in the past, they rarely attacked us, and the theft of the Netherworld Ring was the first time they made a move against us. She pretended to be deep in thought. From those words alone, she was implying that the ancient Yu clan's target was not the Temple of Shadows, and that they had been targeting the Crimson League in the first place. Swayed by the fact that the Netherworld Ring was fake as well, the 3 ambassadors from the Crimson League all felt that her story was indeed believable. Their hatred for the ancient Yu clan inexplicably increased. No wonder they brought out a fake Netherworld Ring to fool with me. They were against us from the start, Bai Ji said with a cold scoff. The Netherworld Ring was a fake? Yi Qingtang pretended to be astonished by this news. That's right, Bai Ji said. I thought they would understand the situation they were in, but who knew that they would try to trick me again and again. I will not stand for this. Yi Qingtang was bubbling with joy underneath, but her face remained calm. I never imagined that the ancient Yu clan would be so arrogant. I have already reported this to the League Chief. The Crimson League will be sending troops over in a few days, and at that time the ancient Yu clan will have no choice but to hand the Netherworld Ring over. Bai Ji said through gritted teeth. She had never been made such a fool before. While Yi Qingtang was glad to hear this, she felt that even though the Crimson League wanted to punish the ancient Yu clan, it wasn't to the point of desperation yet. She had to fan the flames even more. After all, the Crimson League was the key to dealing with the ancient Yu clan. This shouldn't be hard since the League Chief is overseeing it. Why don't the 3 of you stay in the Temple of Shadows for now? I'll inform you immediately if there is any movement on the ancient Yu clan's side, she suggested with false sincerity. The man in black robes nodded without saying anything. Bai Ji was unhappy with this arrangement, but could only nod silently. As for the last person, he hadn't said anything from start to finish, such that people had begun to forget that he was even there. He was just like a porcelain statue. As soon as she instructed Xue Fu to get the 3 ambassadors settled, she quickly went to find Ling Yan to come up with ideas to provoke the Crimson League. He whispered a few things in her ear. She understood immediately and started working behind the scenes. Meanwhile, on the side of the ancient Yu clan, things were a mess. Apart from the ancient clans that had gone to seek shelter in the Temple of Shadows, the ancient Yu clan had wiped out all the other clans and collected their spirit of chaos fragments. All that was left now was to attack the Temple of Shadows and obtain their fragments. But they had not expected the Crimson League to intervene. just as their plan was about to succeed. Several of the ancient Yu clan strongholds had been destroyed by the 3 alien race ambassadors in a matter of days. This was causing a massive headache to the ancient Yu clan. What's happening? Didn't we already return the Netherworld ring to them? The faces of many elders in the main hall were tense as they looked at Elder Mo, who was in charge of all this. His expression was extremely dark as well. He had personally handed the Netherworld ring over. Yet the Crimson League had told him that it was fake. The last thing they wanted right was a fight with the Crimson League, especially at this point. Chapter 2009. Relentless 1. The clan leader has already given his orders that we are not to get into a conflict with the Crimson League at this time. Elder Mo, you must deal with this, and make sure that we do not show any hostility to them. We have to get on their good side no matter what, one of the clan elders said. Elder Mo knew how important this was, and had no choice but to accept it. His expression was ugly as he left the main hall, but he had no choice but to deal with the situation personally, since the clan leader had given his orders. Find out where the Crimson League ambassadors are at once. The information he sought got back to him almost immediately, but only served to darken his expression further. The 3 alien race ambassadors had now already moved from the Frost Abyss to the Temple of Shadows. Elder Mo, I am to blame for a huge part of the issue with the Netherworld ring. Please let me deal with it. Yu Qiong, who had been following Elder Mo all this while, saw his dark expression and quickly volunteered himself. Go to the Temple of Shadows and beg the Crimson League for peace? Elder Mo would sooner die than do that. Elder Mo was still unhappy with Yu Qiong because of the matter with the Netherworld ring. The only reason he was still keeping him by his side was so that he could use him as a shield when the clan leader started questioning them. So his heart leaped with joy as he heard Yu Qiong speak up. Patting Yu Qiong's shoulder, he said, Yu Qiong, it's rare for you to be so enthusiastic. I'll appoint you to be a warden from today onwards. Take some Dharma treasures tomorrow, and head over to the Temple of Shadows to make amends with the Crimson League. Yu Qiong nodded with an expression of unwavering loyalty, but as Elder Mo left, a slyness flashed across his face. Early the next morning, Warden Yu Qiong brought a troop of ancient Yu clan people on horses and headed towards the Temple of Shadows. The ancient clan people in the Temple of Shadows were all taken aback as they saw the approaching ancient Yu clan. They had all thought that the ancient Yu clan would be declaring a war on the Temple of Shadows, but it didn't look like it. Not at all. In fact, they had come with carts laden with gifts. What was going on? Confusion was mirrored across all of their faces. The ancient Yu clan stopped outside the entrance of the Temple of Shadows and handed a letter over. As Yi Qingtang knew that they were there for the Crimson League, she merely passed the letter on to the 3 ambassadors. A smile flashed past her face as she spotted Elder Mo among the ancient Yu clan people after letting them in. The 3 alien race ambassadors in black robes stared at Yu Qiong as he entered the main hall. There were several guards following behind him. They were all confused as they knew nothing about the Crimson League and only knew that they had to follow Yu Qiong's instructions. The ancient Yu clan didn't have anything to put out the fire that they had right now, hence had kept the situation with the Crimson League only within the high ranks. As Yu Qiong stood in the main hall, his gaze swept across the place. His eyes flashed briefly as he saw Yi Qingtang above him, before turning to glance at Bai Ji. You're here to see the 3 ambassadors? She asked. He nodded and sighed under his breath. Just as Bai Ji thought that the ancient Yu clan was finally fearing them and was here to beg for mercy, he raised his chin and said haughtily, I came today on the behalf of the ancient Yu clan leader to greet the 3 ambassadors from the Crimson League. Chapter 2010. Relentless 2. Bai Ji was extremely displeased by Yu Qiong's attitude. The ancient Yu clan is finally scared of us? She said. Scared? He laughed and continued. I think there's been a misunderstanding. What do we have to fear? I'm only here today to pass on a message. You don't want to have the ancient Yu clan as your enemy. What? Bai Ji's face darkened as she heard this. Ignoring this, Yu Qiong continued. With our current power, the Crimson League is nothing to us. The only reason we didn't fight with you the other time was to save you some face. I'm here today to tell you that if you lift a hand to interfere with the matters of the Central Mainland, we will retaliate with an attack on the second domain, and you will be our first target." His words were like a crack of thunder, shaking the entire Temple of Shadows. Who would have expected that even though they had come bearing presents looking like they were ready to beg for mercy, that they would say such shocking things? Did they want to attack the Crimson League? How ludicrous! Outrageous! Yi Qingtang exclaimed in a low voice. Yet she silently gave his declaration a thumbs up in her mind. Well done! Outrageous! So what if we say things like this? He continued to speak in an arrogant tone, as he raised his hands nonchalantly and placed them on the beautiful boxes behind him. "The Netherworld ring belongs to us now, but my clan leader is a man of generosity and has brought all these gifts to trade for it. We hope that the Crimson League can understand the situation and leave the Central Mainland with these gifts. The Central Mainland will be the ancient Yu clan's power from now on, so please do not interfere with us." To think that he dared to speak with much arrogance. Yu Qiong's acting was great, and he instantly turned the gifts that Elder Moen sent as an offering into something demeaning. The guards behind him were all of low ranking and merely followed along with him. Elder Mo had sent Yu Qiong as he was unwilling to step into the Temple of Shadows inside, and had also planned for him and the guards to be slaughtered by the Crimson League as a sacrifice. He was willing to do anything to ease the anger in his heart. Not knowing the true situation, the soldiers all thought that this was the clan leader's will and started feeling arrogant as well. Bai Ji and the other ambassador's face all darkened in an instant. The ambassador, who had not spoken at all till now like a porcelain doll, closed his eyes. Seeing that she had stoked the flames enough, Yi Qingtang suddenly raised her hand. A beam of light shot out and slammed Yu Qiong into the wall. His eyes widened in surprise, but before he could say anything, a spurt of blood burst from his mouth, and he died on the spot. The moment Yi Qingtang had made her move, Bai Ji had made hers as well, and vines erupted from the ground, crushing the ancient Yu clan soldiers to smithereens. That damned ancient Yu clan! How dare they show such arrogance? I don't think we can placate the anger of the Crimson League without killing them off. Bai Ji's eyes were red, and she was seething in anger. The ambassador in black robes raised his hands and turned the gifts into ashes. Mo Yao, gather information on the power of the ancient Yu clan as soon as possible. They will be finished once our troops get here. A cold voice emanated from within the black robes. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. The black-robed ambassador left with Bai Ji behind him. The ancient Yu clan hadn't treated the Crimson League seriously at all, and had humiliated them right in front of them. How dare a mere organization from the first domain offend the Crimson League? Chapter 2011. Relentless 3. The 8 tribe leaders and Ming Wang all looked confused as the 3 ambassadors left the main hall. Isn't the ancient Yu clan acting too arrogantly? How do they dare challenge the Crimson League so directly? The demon tribe leader was shocked. How ridiculous was this? They're just looking for their own destruction. The goblin tribe leader sneered with a cold laugh. This is great. We were still worrying about how to deal with the ancient Yu clan, but now that they have angered the Crimson League themselves, it's going to save us a lot of trouble. The 8 tribe leaders were taken aback by the ancient Yu clan's arrogance, but nevertheless glad at the Crimson League's declaration of war against them. Holy Lord, what will be our next move? I want you to gather all information on the ancient Yu clan at once, Yi Qingtang said. Yes. They acknowledged her order and retreated. Xuefu ordered the blood in the main hall to be cleared up. As they were all distracted, Yi Qingtang dragged the dead Yu Qiong from the pool of blood. Yu Qiong, who was supposed to already be dead, suddenly came to life, as Yi Qingtang brought him to a place where no one was looking. He took huge gulps of air, as though he had really been killed off previously. You did well just now. You know what you need to do after returning to the ancient Yu clan? Yi Qingtang asked him slowly. He had already contacted Yi Qingtang before arriving, and the reason she had pretended to kill him was so that Bai Ji wouldn't harm him in her anger. I will make sure to carry out what the Holy Lord has tasked me with. It's just that. Yu Qiong looked at her in apprehension. I've already gathered some information on the girl that the Holy Lord asked me to investigate. She had asked him to investigate a girl previously, someone that the ancient Yu clan had brought over from the central mainland. Yu Qiong knew that the girl was the reason how the ancient Yu clan had become so powerful so quickly. But he hadn't heard much about her after returning to the ancient Yu clan. Yi Qingtang's brows furrowed slightly, and she sighed softly. Where had the ancient Yu clan hidden little Yu Yun? Once the Crimson League and the ancient Yu clan went into war, they wouldn't stop until one of them was destroyed. She would take that opportunity to look for little Yu Yun and rescue little Luo Shui at the same time. But now, there's something else. Yi Qingtang paused and asked Yu Qiong to lean in. An expression of shock crossed his face as she whispered a few words in his ear. You can return now if you understand. I will inform you if there is any further news, she said. All right. Yu Qiong wiped the blood from himself and left via the secret passage in the Temple of Shadows. This was sufficient. She had stoked the flames enough. Covered in blood, Yu Qiong headed back to the ancient Yu clan in a pathetic state. Elder Mo, who had been awaiting good news, froze when he saw Yu Qiong returning covered in blood. What happened? He asked. Yu Qiong's face was pathetic as he knelt to the ground with a thud. I deserve to die. I did as you asked and went to the Crimson League to seek mercy, only for them to retaliate and try to kill us off. I only escaped by feigning death, so that I could report to you. He said this all with great sincerity, tears streaming down his face. Elder Mo's face got even darker. The Crimson League isn't willing to make peace? Yu Qiong nodded and said, the Crimson League said that the Temple of Shadows belonged to them in the first place, and they wanted to help it become the strongest force in the central mainland. The only reason they sent people over was because the ancient Yu clan has been increasing its scope of influence. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.